Discord for? Oh yeah, I have to show you Discord, lads. This is important, you see, right? So, on Discord, apart from like many people having the crack and slagging me, right? Well, we have an ATC channel specific to this entire course, and it lives here in our Pilot Ops, all right? Pilot Ops channel. So, if you're new here, I'll show you. When you ramble to our Discord, you will arrive at a page that looks like this. And then you go to where it says start here. By clicking on the Shamrock, you now have access to the entire server, right? And all you need to do, there could be millions of channels. Click on browse channels, yeah? And scroll all the way down till where it says Pilot Ops. Oh, there's Pilot Ops. And then you can go in here to the ATC course. Right? So, there it is. This is the ATC course, right? And in here, you'll find a handy manual document book thingy, right? And it's version 6, lads. It's after taking me 6 times to get it right. And everything you need to know. It's a free document for you to download. Information I've scoured the interwebs and some of my own experience and stories and talking to other pilots. It's all thrown in there, and it's good for a reference point, right? That we're going to focus on. So that's where that is. Highly, highly recommend you grab it because, well, this document, it's a script, you see? And it'll explain to us what to do, when to do it, and that's if we're going to do anything at all, right? That's what it is. That's what it is. So, with that said, I shall welcome everyone into our beloved Twitch stream this evening. And, well, of course, happy Monday. And thank you very much indeed for spending some time with me. If you're only starting off or if you think everything's moving too fast, don't worry. There's always going to be plenty of time for revision. We'll touch on a little bit tonight. Next week, it's a full revision. And then we got 1 or 2 other bits and bobs of other revision, right? And that's all before we start with our very first VATSIM event, which is going to be, well, fun, to say the least, because I put stuff up here, look. So a VATSIM event coming soon, and it's for our community. It's a Shannon airport fly-in. Right, so we're going to have departure airports set up in Donegal, Waterford, Birr, and Weston Airfield, or Weston Airport as it is now, in Dublin. Well, kind of outside of Dublin. But I'll let you know the dates when that's going to happen. This event, it's going to be live on the VATSIM network, and big shout out to the guys over at VATAir. I know Adam does tune in here quite a bit, and they're going to staff up the airport for us. Our plan is we're going to be leaving uncontrolled airports, and we're going to make our way down to Shannon. And we're going to base this on getting a slot time, right? Because, you know, you guys might see, or I'm sure you're aware of some of the events that VATSIM has, the cross the pond, cross the land, all these sort of things. Basically, they're massive events, like up to nearly 1,000 pilots. They're huge. And, well, you have to have some sort of order and control. Just like in the real world, you get allocated a slot time in which that's the time in which you can depart. Yeah. So we'll be doing something similar to that. And, as we approach this, we'll put in kind of like a raffle system. So all the pilots who want to fly, they apply, and we'll then do some sort of a, you know, computer thingamabob, and that'll tell you what airport you're going to be flying from. Then using our Discord, and I'll jump in as well to help anyone step by step from each of these airports, what to do and, you know, when to do it as we approach Shannon. And if you do no more, if you do nothing else and just get to this stage, well, you have achieved the objective of flying on VATSIM. That's it. You've done it, right? And we'll see where we go after that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I just found them 2 pictures earlier on, and they were hilarious. So, yeah, a new Monday night adventure will be starting soon, checking out the coffee routes of the world, right? And so I'm looking forward to these, right? So, listen, it's all about learning and enjoying yourselves. And don't ever worry if you make a mistake. I make a mistake all the time. In fact, rephrase that. I make mistakes all the time. Don't worry about it. Real pilots do it when they're talking to real world ATC. Sometimes ATC get it wrong. So don't ever worry, right? You know, the anxiety or the apprehension or the worry is always there, mainly when you don't know what to do. You know, the ATC controller has asked you to do something. You're not very sure what it is. Panic, you get a little bit stressed, and you say, I'll disconnect. It happens. It happens to, well, it hasn't happened to me. I tend to I'm thick. I'll grin and bear it until I'm told to get off the network. That happened on Pilot Edge. But the idea here is you're in a very safe place with us. It's just us. It's just us. There's no one else here. The cat is, maybe. But that's about it, do you know? And for anyone who's on Xbox, don't worry at all, because when we're doing the VATSIM event online with VATSIM, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word, lads? At the same time, concurrently, at the same, in unison, right? At the same time, right? We're also going to be doing it on Discord for the Xbox pilots. And we're going to staff up all the jiggery pokery and controlling for the Xbox pilots as well. Just to give Xbox pilots that sense of online flying with ATC. It currently doesn't exist for them. So we're trying to bridge the gap there. Do you know? Anyway, lads, we're going to do a thing. Are we ready? The virtual ATC ground school. I tried to do the glasses up your nose. Do you ever see these people? Do you ever do that and then miss your glasses and poke yourself in the eye? That's me as well. Right, anyway, so we're moving on. Lesson number 10 tonight, right? And as I said, this document, it's over on our Discord. Drag it and you'll be laughing, right? Me buttons. Hang on a second. Okay, Soaring AJ, our job is to get you up and running. Aaron, all you need to do is in the start here, click on the Shamrock, and that'll open up the server. Oh, the tunage. Ooh, right? Yeah. I mean, come on. Chopping onions with Vicks. Or more like, ouch. Right? Anyway. So what we're going to do, if you ramble down through the document here, we're going to go all the way down to number 10. And we're going to be starting off with heading, tracking, bearing, courses, Q codes, and then a VFR flight. Are we ready? Bing! So we'll start on here. Section 10, lads. This should be fun. So, it can be a little bit confusing to understand exactly what each one is because, well, they're often and incorrectly used interchangeably in conversation, right? Heading, bearing, course, and track, even correctly used by ATC, on course heading is still a little bit misleading because, well, below we'll see why they're practically referring to course and not heading. So, what's the difference between a heading, a bearing, course, and a track anyways? Do you guys know? Do you get confused like me? Oh, never confused. But you ever get, do you know what I mean? Turn left heading. Yeah, I get that one. Or bearing to the station. Like, what? Head on track. Track? I'm in the air, mate. There's all these things, right? What's your course? Plot a course, Captain, right? Anyway, so we'll do a little bit of reading here. Heading is the direction of an aeroplane is pointed. It is the direction the aeroplane is pointed. That's your heading. Where are you? What are you facing, essentially, right? Track is the actual direction of the aeroplane tracking across the ground. Okay, so heading is looking at it, right? Your track is the direction in which the aircraft is moving. Okay. Bearing is the angle between any 2 points, whereas course is your intended path of travel to your destination. Right. Now, let's just slow it all down and see what the crack is here with this. It sounds confusing straight away, doesn't it? How can we draw this? I suppose paint. Yeah, we'll open up paint. So let's get an idea here, right? Welcome to Bob Ross, right? Now, me drawing here now, lads, is going to be hilarious, right? It's going to be hilarious. So we'll put in different sizes and stuff. So what I want to show you here is, right, we're going to call it the blue aeroplane, right? So here's your aeroplane. And let me see. We'll just draw an airplane, Murph. So here's supposed to be an airplane, right? I got an A++ in school for art. The only problem is I didn't go to school. No, sorry, I did. I just didn't do art, right? So here's our airplane, right? Not to scale, friends, not to scale. So say, for example, the direction in which the aircraft is pointing. This way, yeah? Well, that's its heading. The direction in which the airplane is pointing is its heading, yeah? So let's say for an example, right? Let's say for an example, here's another airplane. Yes, you can see this. Here's another airplane. And let's see. Here's an airplane here, right? And we're heading, we're facing a heading of 360. Okay, we're looking dead north, true north. And our destination is going to be a runway or an airport over here. And we're heading 360. Well, if the wind is blowing a certain direction, for example, if the wind is blowing us off, you know, if the wind is moving this way, yeah, we're facing north. Sorry, the wind is blowing the other way. Let's just get rid of this part here. Pretend it didn't exist, right? Oh, Jesus, how come the rubber's so small on that? Don't answer that. Hang on, I get rid of this part here, right? I should have went to school to be an arts teacher. Right, so let's say, for example, that the wind is going this way. Ah, Jesus, where's the brush? Right, let's say the wind is blowing this way and we're heading direct north. Well, this is the path in which we're going to move, yeah? Because the wind is blowing us to the side, yeah? This is the track. Does this make sense so far? So our heading 360 is the heading in which our aircraft is pointed towards, right? So if we're flying on a heading of 360, but the wind is blowing us to the side, well, over the ground, we're not going to be moving dead straight. No, we're going to be pushed to the side. Even though our heading is remaining on, you know, north, we're getting pushed off to one side. So that's the track. That makes sense so far? Somebody tell Murphy about Control Z. That immediately made life better. Look at that. Look at that. It's science. It's science. Right. Okay. The bearing is the angle between any 2 points. So, for example, we have our little airplane again, right? So here's our airplane. Yeah. And here's the runway. Well, the angle from us to it, that's the bearing. Yeah. So if you were to draw like a full circle around your aircraft, right? And obviously here's your 360, here's 90, yeah, and so on and so on. Well, your bearing from you to there, right? Let's call it 70. So, you know, your target is bearing 070, something like that. That's your bearing, yeah? Does that make sense? And then the course is your intended path in which you're going to travel to that destination. So your course would be set in from your location. For example, it would be something like this. This region here is going to be the course in which you will be turning to follow to that destination. So if that's going to be 070, your course is going to be keyed in along there. Does that kind of make sense? Don't worry about the pictures, but I wanted to kind of visualize what it is we were doing. Right. Anyway, in this section, I will try to elaborate one of these or on each of these points, and then also provide a real world example that incorporates the accurate use of all the terms. You need to know the difference between true and magnetic bearings that you fly. If you assume both are the same, you could end up in Leitrim. Now, what do we know about that? Thank you. Someone give me a round of applause there. Jesus, that was brilliant. Right, Bob Ross, eat your heart out, right? Now, does anyone know what I mean by true north or magnetic north? Or can anyone give me a, what's the word I'm looking for? Someone give me an example, right? What's the difference? What are we talking about here? True north? You can't handle the true, right? What do we mean by that? So, for example, you would have brush, yes. 360 degrees. The 12 o'clock position, right? And then you have what's called magnetic. A magnetic bearing. And how do these deviate, or how do these have differences? True north is 360. Yes. Never knew or thought about tracks, but it makes sense. David Bay, yeah, 100%. True and magnetic difference is the declination angle. Magnetic is slightly northwest. Well, depending on your location, yeah? Magnetic north. Think about it for a second. Magnetic. Okay. What happens down in Bermuda? Or what's liable to happen down in Bermuda? Do you know what I mean? We're on the right track though, lads. You're getting there. Bermuda Triangle. There you go. So essentially, right, they're two different. Well, we'll read it, right? They are two different references for direction used in navigation. True north True north is the geographic north pole of the Earth. It is the direction along the Earth's rotational axis and it is fixed. True north represents the Earth's axis of rotation and aligned with the lines of longitude on a map or on a globe. It is the reference point of navigation based on the Earth's geographic coordinates. True north is constant and does not change over time. True north. Magnetic north, on the other hand, is the direction towards which the north-seeking end of a magnetic compass needle is pointing to. It is determined by the Earth's magnetic field, which is not aligned with the geographic north-south axes. The magnetic field is generated by the movement of molten iron within the Earth's outer core. Magnetic north is not fixed and it does change over time. The Earth is magnetic. Its field is influenced by various factors, including the movement of the Earth's molten core, the influence of nearby magnetic materials, and also external magnetic fields from the sun and other celestial bodies. These factors cause the position of magnetic north to drift slowly over time. Magma. I've been dying to say that, right? Anyway, the difference between true north and magnetic north is known as the magnetic declination. It represents the angular difference between the direction of true north and magnetic north at a particular location. The magnetic declination varies depending on the location of the Earth's surface and it changes gradually over time, right? To navigate accurately using a magnetic compass, pilots, sailors, and navigators need to account for the magnetic declination by applying the appropriate corrections to convert the magnetic bearing to the true bearing. Charts and navigation tools often provide information about the local magnetic declination. I am saying that right, haven't I? To assist in accurate navigation. It's important to note, true north and magnetic north may not align in the same direction at a given location. It is crucial to understand and consider that the magnetic declination when determining an accurate bearing and headings for navigation purposes. I'm not making this up. Let's have a look at this, look. Let us open some charts here. Now, let's say, for example, we want to open up Shannon. We like Shannon. So if we open up a reference, will we get it here for Shannon, the AIR? I think we will. Shannon Airport info. Let's have a look at this chart, right? Okay, so what's this telling us here now? Is there anything on our chart that's going to tell us, is there anything present on a chart that might tell us if there's going to be some sort of deviation in relation to the magnetic heading? You need to check. You need to check your charts. Now, there's nothing jumping out on this screen. However, I know there is another one that'll show it, right? There is another one. 04, let's see. References, radar minimum altitudes. We have one in our little book here, right? They're compass points. Yeah, you can look at them as well. Wasn't Shannon the Czechoslovakian student in American Pie? Oh, she was. Yes, she was. Variation, deviation. Yeah, I don't see it here though. Hang on, we'll look at the AIP for Shannon. Where's my book? So have a look at this, look. So if we ramble up here into our book, see, it's very handy that, see the way I made the book look. Let's have a look at the book. And we'll just scroll up here until I have the chart for Shannon. Jesus, it's that far back. Look at the amount of ground we covered, lads. Jesus. Hang on there now. Hang on there now. Hang on there now. Now, here we go. So see this here, right? This is important. On this is the official, it's one of the official charts for Shannon. See this, it says annual rate of change. Annual rate of change, meaning that the magnetic bearings, well, they change yearly, right? Yearly. And what's interesting here is over a course of time, it'll change, 0.11 degrees west. Over a period of time, airport runways change numbers. For example, at Baldonnel, Casement Aerodrome, they used to have runway 29er. It's now runway 28. Used to be 29er, now it's runway 28. Because of our location on the globe, 290 degrees went to 289, 288, 287, so on. And once it gets to 285 or less, it drops down. They round it to the closest. So it becomes runway 28. That's interesting, isn't it? Now, what does that mean for us? Not a whole lot. We just need to be aware that there is a difference between true and a magnetic bearing. We need to be aware of that. Now, Where else might you find this information of changing, if you're looking at a compass? You ever see a compass inside of an airplane, right? So for example, hide that for a minute. Do you ever see this stuff before on your compass?
That's a big 10-4, good buddy.
Hey, B. Carlo, 13 months, man. Thank you very, very much indeed. Cheers. Some aircraft would have this fitted based on the location they're in. Some aircraft, because of, well, there's lots to consider here. It could be the torque, it could be the P factor, all of these jads. It could be the calibration of the equipment on the aircraft. But you get an idea. Heading toward a very particular heading, well, there has to be some sort of deviation in there for magnetic versus true. All right? Have enough? That 30 degrees is 4 degrees off. I don't know how accurate that is. They tend to be photographs of what's actually in some of the aircraft. You know what I mean? So it is interesting to know that there is a difference. Don't worry about it too much. Don't let it wreck your head for the next several hours. All right? So look at this. Contents, and go back to where I was trying to get to here. Isn't that handy the way our little book does that? Yes, Murph, it is. Right, moving on, Moving on. So we need to know that there is a difference. That's all. Heading. So let's talk about the heading. Heading is probably the most confusing term out of all of these because it can be the most easily or be most used in conversation to replace track, bearing, or course. Heading is actually just the direction that the nose is pointed towards. Makes sense? It doesn't factor in the wind or the actual movement of the aircraft going across the ground. It only refers to what the compass reads based on where the nose is pointed. So you can be heading due north, but if you have an incredible wind, you could be still facing your heading, but you're getting pushed off to the side. That makes sense, right? Magnetic variation and deviation of the compass also impacts what heading you will need to be pointed to maintain a given track. We'll get into that now. So a track is the easiest of the four to understand in my mind because it simply refers to how you are tracking over the ground. When navigating in the air, your track is really all that matters in terms of getting to where you want to go, right? That's the most important. What's our track, right? If you need to go northeast to your destination and have a significant wind from the west, your heading might be to the north in order to achieve a track to the northwest. This is where like sideways landings and all this jazz come into it. When you're flying in the sim and you can feel the aircraft,
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Brilliant, right? Deadly serious, right? If you're flying in the sim and you're coming in and it's a crosswind landing and like your aircraft can no longer point towards the runway in order to hit it, you actually have to point the aircraft to the side. The nose needs to point at the side of the runway in order for you to actually land on it. That's track. So that I understand that way more easier. Hey, I'm facing north. There's a wind coming in from the east. Well, for me to maintain north, I need to turn my airplane into the east to maintain that tracking to the north. All right. Here we go. If you need to go northwest area. So for example, a Garmin GNS 430 will present my current track as well as the desired
Sleepy,
track
nighty, snoozy, snooze.
to get to a particular destination, right? Thanks, Muse. And this is the track over the ground that I need to achieve to get to where I'm going. If the track and desired track don't match, then I have a heading problem. Luckily, if you have an autopilot that's coupled with your GPS, as soon as you hit nav mode, well, it's going to do all that hard work and guessing for you. Heading and track are really the two main categories of direction of flight, but they are further broken down into bearings and course, which we're going to have a look at next. Do we all understand so far what we're getting to? Hey, Epic Fool, good to see you. I always land directly into the wind. There you go. Does it make sense? Right? So if you're flying, I'll go back to me fancy drawings look, right? I'm actually pressing the wrong button twice. If you want to go from A to B, but the wind is blowing a terrible gale. If we're down here, look, we're here, right? I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's an airplane. It looks like a Saab Viggen, right? This is us. It looks like a Christmas tree. And we want to go to, here. This is our destination, yeah? Well, our heading is going to be 360, yeah? Okay. What would happen if there's a wind coming in from the east moving to the west? What direction is our aircraft going to go then? Well, she's going to go this direction, isn't it? Why? Because, well, the wind is blowing us off course. So there's our heading, but here's our track. Are you with me so far? So what might you think needs to happen if we want to maintain if we want to maintain that destination? What do we need to do with our airplane? We need to turn it, yeah? So we're going to turn it in the direction of this, yeah? And what's going to happen here, you ask? Well, the idea now is going to be, with the aircraft pointed towards the wind, it's going to do something like this. It's going to move across. Instead of going straight up, straight off, it's now actually going this way. Are we making sense? I hope so. You'll need to apply wind correction and then tell the wind it's wrong. Yes. Hello, wind? It's Murph. You're wrong. You get the idea, though. That's it. Like, if you're on the ground, you can't do it unless you're doing like friggin', you know, Yaki Boos on Betsy. If the car starts to slide, what do we do in ice? If the car starts to slide, you turn into the slide. Yeah? Don't go near the brakes, turn into the skid. Why? Because, well, the arse is going that way. You need to turn the wheels to catch up. You know what I mean? Anyway, right, that's what you do. Anyway, let's move on. So, bearing, right? I can barely bear it, the Birr bearing. Bearing can be confusing sometimes because it has an overlap with a course. Bearing is simply the angle or the direction between 2 points. A practical application of this is in VOR navigation. It's common to hear someone say, we are bearing 090 from the station. It simply means that the VOR that they are tracking is on the 090 radial outbound from the station in relation to the VOR they are bearing 090 on the outbound, yeah? Due to wind correction angles, you might have to be heading something different than 090 to work out the track. If you have a northerly wind, for example, you might have to change your heading to 080 in order to maintain a track along the 090. Just like the bit of drawing I showed you. You've got to turn your aircraft to a slightly different heading to allow for that variation of the wind, right? Along the way, you might triangulate your position from another VOR by determining what the bearing to the station would be. You could be on the 180 radial from one VOR and the 090 radial from another one, and the two separate bearings are from the station, meaning that the bearing has less to do with your desired course as it does with describing where something is in relation to something else. That's a bit of a sentence. Let's explain it. Along the way, you might want to triangulate. So if you want to triangulate a position, say for example you're heading north, right, and that's where your station is, and you can tune your radio into another VOR station. And if you worked out on your map to say, well, hang on, there's a VOR station here, and on its radial of, let's call it 340 degrees, well, that's the next VOR. Well, you can tune your radios into that station, and then as soon as you know you've hit the 340 outbound, you know you're pretty much bang on the inbound for your destination. Again, don't worry about this too much yet. This comes up later on when it comes to IFR and all this jazz, when we have to do VOR navigation. Just be aware of it, okay? Course. Course is very similar to a bearing in that the desired direction of your route of flight, right? It is the desired direction for your route of flight. If you're going directly from one airport to another, your course and bearing will be the same along the route of flight. If you are flying from an airport to a VOR to another airport, your course will change each leg as you are bearing. So let's bring up this one here now in my Bob Ross paint kit. So say, for example, we're going to start here, yeah? We want to fly to a VOR and then we want to land at an airport, yeah? So we're on one bearing or course, and then we need to change that bearing or course because now we're coming down here. They're changing, yeah? So you have to fly up and then you need to fly back. If you were only going from point to point, you don't need to change it because that's your destination. All right. I am bearing drinks, so grin and bear it. Yes, right. Are we following so far? Good. No? Good. Example. For this example, we're going to work backwards through the above mentioned directions. Assume you are on the departing airport and your destination is directly eastbound. Okay, well, let's do this, right? We're going to be on a airport. Let's call the airport here, right? And our destination is east of this airport here. Yeah. Okay. When you take off, The course between the departing airport and the destination is 090. Correct. 090. In this instance, the bearing and destination airport to your departing airport is also 090. The bearing of the destination airport you are departing is also 090. This is also the direction you want to track the airplane so that it'll stay on course. Your compass heading may or may not be 090, depending on the wind and all that sort of jazz. Now, we've looked at the E6B calculator before. That's another day's work, but they give you tools to do all this. Anyway, magnetic variation of your location, any deviation of the compass itself on board your aircraft. Remember the following calibration to solve your compass heading in order to fly your desired course. True desired course plus and minus the wind correction angle gives you a true heading. True course plus or minus your wind correction gives you a true heading. True heading plus magnetic variation gives you a magnetic heading. And then magnetic heading plus or minus deviation gives you a compass heading. Yeah. From the above calculation, you can determine what your actual heading on your compass will need to be to maintain your desired course to get to the destination airport. All right. It kind of makes sense. So, for example, you're taking off and you want to fly directly east on a heading of 090. But let's say, for example, that 090 is magnetic. So your instruments is giving you a true bearing of 090, but that doesn't necessarily mean that airport is going to be bang on where you fly, because it's the magnetic deviation has pushed it slightly down, yeah? Meaning that you have to calibrate and aim off for these things. So 090, once you have your magnetic deviation set, that'll give you a new heading in which you turn, or a course or a track, yeah? If then there is savage wind blowing, and the wind is coming this way, yeah? Well, then your aircraft needs to turn into the wind, face into the wind at a different heading, yeah? To maintain that track to that station of where it is. So it's all to do with, getting from A to B, knowing that the wind and a magnetic declination will have some sort of impact on where it is you're trying to fly. It is not as simple as looking on the map, I want to go from here to here. Think about driving in your car. There are very few straight roads. Very, very few of them. They might be straight for a couple of miles, but in general, there's very few straight roads from point to point. They've got to go around terrain. Some of them go through mountains, some go over hills, some have to go through villages and towns, others have bypasses, yeah? But you're on the road. You're on the road. The heading of the vehicle changes all of the time, yeah? In the air, it's kind of similar. The aircraft is moving through because it's aiming off for wind and the magnetic deviation. It's the same concept, but it's not, right? Anyway, let's not get lost in it. Just be aware there are subtle differences. Most of the time, your aircraft is going to show you, or you're going to read. The charts are going to tell you if there is any serious heading or magnetic deviations, or if you're using GPS. You don't really need to worry about it because you have GPS, all right? It's more to do with elementary flight training.
Captain, how soon can you land?
I can't tell.
You can tell me I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
Ah, jeez. Now, right? Who did that? Hey! Cian Lafford. People outside of Ireland won't know what a bendy road is, right? Grab your parachutes, it's here, good to see it. Okay, does a GPS use true or magnetic heading? The above example assumes you are using the compass in your airplane, hence why it requires so many steps to calibrate the difference between your true course all the way down to your actual compass heading. But what about GPS? Well, it's not using the Earth's magnetic field as a way of navigation, but rather positioning information provided by satellites. So, if it shows your desired track, is that a true magnetic heading? There may be slight differences between the course information portrayed on a GPS and on a navigational chart. A GPS navigation display when flying authorized GPS instrument procedures or along an airway. All magnetic tracks defined by any conventional navigation aids are determined by the application of the station magnetic variation. In contrast, GPS RNAV system may use an algorithm which applies the local magnetic variation and may produce small differences in the displayed course. Okay. However, both methods of navigation should produce the same desired ground track when using approved IFR navigation systems. You can start understanding why it's so important to have accurate and calibrated avionics when you want to fly IFR. Like something as simple as that. If you're off by, a slight heading, if you're off 5 degrees, right? If your heading is off by just 5 degrees, over a short distance, it's not major. Over a long distance, huge, right? Huge. Anyway, due to GPS avionics computation of great circle courses and the variations in magnetic variation, the bearing to the next waypoint and course from the last waypoint, if available, may not be exactly 180 degrees apart, and when long distances are involved. Variations in distances will occur since GPS distance to waypoint values are along track distances. They're computed to the next waypoint and the DME values published on the underlying procedures. The difference increases when your aircraft altitude and proximity to the nav aid. You'll see all of this on the GPS. You'll see ETE, you'll see track, you'll see course, you'll see all of this. A lot of the time, this stuff is updated automatically. The aircraft is configured, it's calibrated, it gets its updates, it gets all the updated charts to say, hey, the magnetic variation is now slightly different at this airport. It goes through all of these things, yeah? But it's interesting to know that there is a something, right? Now, who else has a sore head after all of that? Our takeaway, to summarise the whole shebang, you need to be aware there are differences between a heading, bearing, track, and course. There are differences. Relate to this document if you need the defining points of what they are, but just know there are differences. And most importantly, what we must remember, there is a difference between true heading and magnetic heading. There's a difference between true and magnetic. Bearings, headings, doesn't matter. There's a difference. True north, just like what it says on the map. You open Navigraph, you open up a map, you zoom out, you look at Google Maps or whatever. True north doesn't budge. It'll always be up there. Yeah? South, east, and west. They never move. However, if, for example, you're looking now on the magnetic deviation, now you're talking, that's how north might be defined from the magnetic pull. Yeah? You go down to somewhere like, well, I tell you, you fly up around anywhere near the pole, you're going to get differences in magnetic declination. Around the Bermuda Triangle, all sorts of crazy jazz, right? All sorts of, because the headings keep change, like your compass moves all over the shop. Yeah? So it is interesting. Use your turn, unless you turn the map, then true north is not in the same place. Correct. Just be aware there's a difference. True north, it's true. It'll never change. The magnetic one, that'll deviate. All right. Are we happy enough so far? Gibba says, I wasn't listening after hello. So like true north and fake north. There you go. Big Al, it's good to see you, man. Right. Okay. We're moving on. I hope you got this so far, but we are moving on. We're doing well, lads. The last bit of stuff we're going to touch on tonight, they're called Q codes. Huh? Q codes? What are Q codes? Jesus, what's the actor's name in Star Trek who plays Q? We need him for this. What's his name? John Delancey. Yes. Jean-Luc. You're welcome. That fella, right. Anyway, Q codes, right? In aviation, Q codes are a set of 3-letter codes used for communication purposes between pilots, air traffic controllers, and other aviation personnel. These codes are part of the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, the standard, and are designed to ensure clear and concise communication, particularly in situations where radio transmissions might be limited or of poor quality. Q codes are typically used in voice communication over radio or intercom systems, and they cover a wide range of topics relating to flight operations, weather, aircraft systems, and general aviation procedures. Can anyone tell me a Q code that they already know? What have we seen so far that should be very easy to recognize? Not necessarily to know, but what do we use all the time? And it doesn't matter if you're in Europe or in America, it's the same code is used. What might that be? QNH. We see QNH everywhere. Now, QNH doesn't mean anything. It's a 3-letter code. QNH. QNH is the code given for the local barometric pressure, which is measured in hectopascals or in inches of mercury, millibars. Yeah. What is the baro? What is the baro settings? Yeah. Altimeter or QNH? It's the same thing. QNH or altimeter. 29902 or 29906 or 1011 or 1016. QNH. There you go. You've learned your first code. Nice, right? There's a few more of them. So the Q code was instituted at the Radio Telegraph Convention. Gibbo Ireland was here for this one. It was held in London back in 1912, right? There was a massive crowd there, according to Gibbo, as a means of creating a shorthand for the use with Morse code. At the time, the Q code was intended for use by shipping. The code consisted mainly of 3-letter groups beginning with Q, of which the groups QAA to QNZ or Z were later reserved for aeronautical services, right? AJH. Hey, you're the one with the grey hair. Ah, no, don't look at me, Ed. When radio was introduced to the civil aviation back in the early 1930s, all radio communication was by wireless telegraphy, right? It should be noted that this included aeronautical point-to-point as well as air-to-ground services. Each code had a specific meaning assigned which remained the same regardless of the language spoken by either the operator, thus neatly overcoming the problem of communications on international services. The later move to voice communications by high-frequency and very high-frequency radio telephone necessitated the adoption of English as the international language of aviation. Not to mention, the great unpleasantness of, Anyway, the meanings of the aeronautical code signals were assigned by ICAO, and since only stations within the aeronautical service will have available copies of the aeronautical code, it should not be used in communications with stations other than services unless it is known by that station. Now we have a whole load of these. There are a few different Q codes that are mostly used during VFR flight. Not every VATSIM controller will know these, by the way, so don't try and be the hotshot. You have to be careful, right? You could be the hotshot student pilot and call up, Shannon approach, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, request QDM. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. I don't know why I repeat myself, but request QDM or Quebec Delta Mike, QDM. Huh? Echo India Tango Tango Mike, here's the phone number. Basically what QDM is, you're asking them to indicate the magnetic heading for me, as in me, the pilot, to steer towards your position, right? You don't need to know all of these. Just be aware of them. Just be aware of them. QDR, what is my magnetic bearing from you? QDM, what is my magnetic heading to you? QTE, what is my true bearing from you? QUJ, will you indicate the true track to reach you? QGE, what is the distance to my station? And QTF, position with relation to a point reference or lat long, right? There's lots and lots of Q codes. I've put a link in here over to the skybury.aero. Q codes all have different accuracy classes as well. This is where you jump down the rabbit hole. There's a lot going on here, right? To be aware, Q codes, you have stuff that relates to altitudes and altimeters, and then you have stuff that relates to navigation, right? QNH, QNE, QFE, QFF, or QDM, QDR, QTE, and QUJ. There's one code that doesn't get used an awful lot, and very few people use them. They use them in Birr the odd time, and they used them in Weston once, and it's actually pretty funny, right? There is a code which indicates a change in frequency for radio communication. For example, if a pilot tells you to do this, they're basically telling it to get off their channel, right? And that code, QSY. I'm going to QSY there, red leader, right? Get off the frequency. It's not used off. It's like, these are all old day stuff, right? Anyway, your QDR, QDM, QTE, QJ, all of this, that's all their accuracies. And then it goes to QTF, that's all their accuracies. ATC will report the accuracy class to you after you give them the Q code. This way you know what you're working with, and it gives you time to, get the whole thing down to an accuracy level. All right? QTE. Yeah, Epic, you're a cutie. Come on, you're an epic fool, right? It's interesting, but not very applicable. This is more to do with airmanship and, navigation and all this sort of jazz on radio telephony. But just to be, aware, they have a system in place for these. They have these different Q codes. If you were doing, an FAA rating or an IAA rating, if you're doing your PPL, you're going to be asked this stuff in the real world. But as flight simmers on VATSIM, just to be aware, there are some of them. You might want to know a couple of these. QDM, for example. That's in what's the heading? How do I get to where you are? Or, what's the distance? But in a lot of time, your aircraft is going to give you all this information, because most of the aircraft we're flying, well, they all have modern avionics. The flights that Alison does, the flights that Ali does, Captain Arash, Celestial Navigator, all these guys, what they do with the old warbirds or the vintage aircraft that don't have all the modern avionics or GPS units, now it's important. Why? Because, well, if you want to fly your vintage aircraft online, just like Ian Fisher is going to be doing, I think tomorrow they have an event where they're flying the Dam Busters raid mission, right? Well, they don't have GPS, right? So they have to communicate and also navigate using the old way of doing things. And this is where your Q codes come in. They just do, because you can talk to certain controllers. And again, it depends on the controller, who may or may not know what all of these are. All right? Bearing range, altitude. Go man called Nebo. QST is a quick way of signaling to a controller that you want to change frequency, especially if they are busy. QST, I have QSY. Is it QST? I thought it was QSY. But yeah, you can indicate to change frequency radio communication. If the controller tells a pilot to QSY, it means the pilot should switch their frequency. Get off me phone, right? There's tons of them. Type QSY. So if you hear now, and that can be both ways. A pilot can say it to ATC, "Hey Johnny, I'm gone QSY. I mean, gone Black Ops," or he's jumping onto Unicom or whatever. Yeah, it depends. It's more real world stuff. Just be aware of it. Ailerons was saying there, in your PPL, you weren't asked for it. It depends on the test. PPL nav. Oh, you will be asked for these. Yes, you will. 100%. I was going to say, you weren't asked for these. Are you sure? No, he was asked for them. So if you're doing your PPL stuff, yes, they will ask you. I don't think they ask you them all. They'll throw one or two of them at you. Explain the following. What? The letters don't stand for anything. You need to be careful of that. They don't actually stand for anything, right? So the last bit I want to touch on, because this confuses people all the time. If you're looking for altitudes, what is me height, or what is the field elevation, and so on. Let us just recap on this. Let's just recap. Your altitude, your height, and elevation. Altitude, height, and elevation. This is important. Altitude is the vertical distance between mean sea level and a point in the air. What's the altitude? From the sea level to you. The height is the vertical distance between a point on the ground and a point in the air. Okay. Elevation is the vertical distance between sea level and the point, or a point on the ground. So for example, if your field elevation says 200 feet, well, that means you're 200 feet above sea level. Yeah? If you want to fly at 1,000 feet above the ground, yeah, well, then your altitude in your aircraft will read how much? How much? Bearing in mind, you're at an airport that has a field elevation of 200 and you want to fly at 1,000 feet, altitude 1,000 feet. What's your altitude going to be? Yeah, exactly. When it comes to barometric pressure, or the baro, yeah, that will dictate the pressure altitude based on mean sea level. So, for example, if you need to get a QNH, for example, if you're trying to work out what the QNH is, what's the local baro, right? Well, that's going to give you the difference of the altitude over mean sea level, usually, right? Will be better named GOMR, get off me radio. That would work as well, Big Al. That would work as well. Is altitude the same as AGL, above ground level? Above ground level, yeah. So you've mean sea, MSL, mean sea level. Sea level. That's the main one. On most modern aircraft, and this is what I do in the real world. In most modern aircraft, lads, you tend to have two altimeters. You'll have one and then you'll have a backup one. Just so typical. This particular airplane doesn't have it. A lot of the Cessnas do, right? In particular, when it comes to training aircraft, a lot of the Cessnas do. So what I do at any airport or any airfield, I'll always tune the main altimeter into the local QNH, 1011 or 10, whatever it is, right? And then the backup one, I'll always put that exactly to the field elevation, my altitude from ground level or airport elevation. It just helps. The airport elevation one isn't used an awful lot, really, right? We tend to stick with the barrow. The only time you want the actual ground elevation, maybe aerobatic pilots, because they need to know exactly what the altitude is over the airfield because they're doing a display or whatever, yeah? But a lot of the time we just stick to the barrow. We need to know what the pressure altitude is, and that's what we put in to our little barometric setting, which is either going to be in inches of mercury or millibars. All right? So do we get that? Most circuits are AGL. Yes, they would be. Again, refer to your charts. Some airports mightn't have it. They mightn't, right? So that's what it is we want to do. QFE is the actual atmospheric pressure at an aerodrome. So as ailerons are saying, students are saying QFE, they'll say QFE. You might hear someone say, field elevation 200 QFE. Okay. Or they might say 1011 QFE. Or you can ask them, Shannon Tower or, Shannon Control, right? Please advise QFE. Okay. What's the barrel? What is the actual atmospheric pressure at an aerodrome elevation? It's used by us so we can set our altimeter to the field elevation when operating at or near an airport. Okay? So what's QVC? Wasn't that like the shopping channel? Do you remember the shopping channel? Jeez, that used to be brilliant. Now, right, so before we go any further, is everyone now up and running some which way? Soaring AJ, I think you were having issues with your microphone. Let's see, can we get up and running? And, you know what I mean? Get up and running, right? So what we're going to do for the flight, we're going to be departing Birr Airfield. There's a hot air balloon. We're going to depart Birr Airfield, right? And we're going to fly down to Shannon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plan the flight. And remember, if you follow the manual or the document, yeah, this lad, we go through the same thing again. VFR lesson 5, or VFR flight number 3, it's lesson number 5, yeah? So this is our third VFR flight, and we're going to plan the same again. Part 1, plan. Part 2, file our flight plan. Part 3, we fly it. And Part 4, we review it, yeah? QNH is just universal, so it seems like the best to me. QNH is absolutely universal. They use it everywhere. They use it in the States, they use it in Ireland, they use it everywhere. You might hear altimeter thrown in there, but QNH, if you tell some, hey, what's the QNH? They'll figure it out, especially on VATSIM, they'll get it. And if they don't get it, they'll RTFM, right? Right, anyway, let's see what the crack is here. So planning our flight, so let's plan a flight. And again, if you read down through this document, it explains what we're going to do, what are the points of interest, any danger zones, so on and so on and so on, right? For this lesson, we're going to depart Birr and we're going to arrive at Shannon. There is no ATC coverage for the departure of the flight, but once we approach the control zone at Shannon, we'll have to request permission to enter it. This is important. So if we zoom in, hello there, look at this. Robert, you're very welcome in. If we have a look at this chart here, that's my location in the sim. I'm at Birr. And see around Shannon, well, you have the area or the zone, right?
Hello there.
He's in the zone, lads. Fab. That's a great name. Welcome in, dude. Thank you for the follow. So what we have here is, well, this is an airspace. It's airspace, and they give altitudes here. Again, if you're unsure what the airspaces mean, well, go back up to your contents, click down to where it says airspaces. So let's have a look here. Phonetic uncertainty charts, airspace, airspaces, charts, and all the jazz. It's all here. It's in the book. It is in the book. Kinda, sorta, almost. It's in the book. So if you're stuck, use this document just to kind of give you a bit of a refresher. Okay? Okay. So for us to enter this area, number one, we need to identify the type of airspace that it is, because we can't just fly into any old airspace. we need certain equipment on board to be allowed to fly in these areas. So there are rules attached. But we're okay entering a Class Charlie airspace, this is Class Charlie, provided we have permission. Now, we need to have a transponder that can go squawk mode Charlie, right? So it can do altitude reporting. And as an addition, it is going to be very handy to have some sort of distance measuring equipment, or DME. So you'll often hear a controller say to you, report DME or report 10 miles DME. Huh? What the hell does he mean? Where's DME? I can't find the DME button. DME stands for distance measuring equipment. Now, how do you find distance to or distance from? Well, there's ways around it. If you're via WAR, you can get a DME from the station. If you're flying by GPS, you can get a distance from that area. A station, the reason why I say station, well, a station is your point of interest. It's an airport, airfield, a VOR station, a freaking DME beacon, a landmark, right? A visual reference point, all of these things, right? So DME, right? Lord Bain, you're very welcome in. You're very welcome in. Is there any restricted airspace in Ireland? Yes, there is. There are a few traffic restrictions. Over the Phoenix Park, over Port with the prison, down around the Glen of Amal. There's a few of them. There are some no-fly zones. Anyway, we're looking at Shannon. So if we zoom in on our chart here, we're saying, okay, the Class Charlie airspace starts at 3,500 feet all the way up to flight level 24,500. So what does that mean? If we could be outside of this airspace if we fly below 3,500 feet. Okay, so we could actually, in theory, operate in and around Moy Glass, right? Or, what's further down? Drumineer, Cherry Glass, Scariff nearly. We can operate in this airspace by staying beneath it because, well, we're not in his airspace if we're under 3,500 feet. Now, common courtesy and, as part of the IAA in Ireland, again, it depends on your local authority, you have to ping them when you're getting anywhere next or near it. It's common sense. Common sense. As you move in closer, you'll see now that the restrictions have increased. Now they're saying, well, the altitude, instead of being at 3,500 feet, no, you got to fly lower at 2,500 feet to stay outside of our airspace. And when you see how it works, it makes a lot of sense, yeah? Aircraft departing are at ground level, they got to go upwards, meaning that the space from the ground all the way up increases gradually, yeah? And then once we get into the interior or the final circle, this is known as the control zone. This is the tower control zone. This is what the tower will operate under, yeah? So if you're talking to the tower, they operate this little area in here. And they have a restriction of the ground up to flight level 245. There is no entry into this immediate, whatever it is, 15, 20 miles in any direction of the airport tower at all. You're not allowed in there whatsoever unless you have permission, because their airspace is from the ground, GND, ground, up to 24,500 feet. All right. Does VATSIM have lower limits for their control zone, or is it, they would base it on in real life stuff. Hey, Patrick is here. Good to see you. They would base it on the real world stuff. However, always check with the charts, and there could be, for example, a NOTAM, just like there would be in the real world. VATSIM would follow a NOTAM if they were doing some sort of an event. Let's say, in the most disturbed distant future, there's a hot air balloon event on VATSIM, right? They might then have to restrict further TFRs in the area to say, you're just not allowed to enter here at all. And that could be a very particular place. You'll find something interesting here now in a second, because you'll see how there is something quite unique about Shannon airspace around here. And we'll have a look at it, right? Who be this? RB Fox, thank you very, very much indeed for the Prime subscription. Very kind of you. You're very, very kind. Now, see this area here? Well, it's still Class Charlie, but there's a change. And the reason why there's a change, there's two reasons. Number one, well, there's another teeny tiny little airport, Cuna, right? And also you have Limerick City, because there is a TFR over Limerick City. Any ideas, lads, why there is a TFR over Limerick City? Any ideas? What do we know, apart from what do we know, what's in Limerick? that would necessitate no fly zone directly within 2,000 feet over the city, right? Military installation. There's a jail. There you go. Posh people who don't want noise. Yeah, all of these things. Usually, in Ireland, any sort of a built-up area, they don't want any air traffic within 2,000 feet of it. Now, if they're, official traffic restrictions, you get in trouble if you do it. If they're just over kind of like a small kind of a town or whatever, you can kind of half get away with it, provided you don't break the VFR rules. For example, Birr, they don't want traffic next or near Birr under 2,000 feet. It's not always possible because when you're coming into land, well, you got to go over Singfield and you got to go over a couple of industrial estates. You're going to be low. You're going to be at like 700 feet, right? But this is quite unique because within this Class Charlie airspace, you have a new zone. Here's a new zone. It's still Class Charlie, but you can fly from 1,000 to 500 or to 5,000 feet. And the reason for that is to allow the Kuna air traffic get in and around this area, right? Just have a look at the chart. You'll see where it's all out. You'll see where it's all about. So Kuna has a little kind of miniature control zone within the Shannon control zone. We don't need to worry about it because we're not flying to and from Kuna, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to plan a flight. We're going to start off in Birr. So check this out. We're going to type in new flight. We want to select Birr for our departure, Echo India Bravo Romeo. And we're going to put in Shannon as our destination. And this program I'm using here, this is called Navigraph. It's Navigraph Charts. It is a subscription-based thing. It's about 10 or 11 euros a month, but it is excellent. And if you're going to be flying online, this is your one-stop shop for all charts and navigation. All of it. I've used FireFly, I've used Sky, I've used them all. For flight simulation, this is the only ticket you need. That's it, right? FireFly is great. I stopped using FireFly because I just wasn't flying enough in the real world to justify, 300 odd euros a year, right? It's very, very good. But unless you're getting your real world flying, pointless. This does everything it needs to do. It'll track you. It'll give you all the charts. It's the job, right? It's the job. So our flight. Now, we're VFR. We get to kind of play around here. We don't need to be terribly boring. So, well, because we're flying by visual flight rules, well, let's go kind of checking things out. So I'm going to plan a little bit of a flight plan. We're going to fly over Portumna, just like what we did last week, yeah? Then I want to fly over kind of maybe Mount Shannon. Because as I'm planning my route, I already know the airport in operation at Shannon. This comes into your planning. You can get the you get the ATC, you can look up the METAR, you can do all these things. I know that runway 24 is active in Shannon. So I'm not going to plan to half arrive at the airport from some sort of a mad direction. I'm going to make life a little bit easy. Now, before I get into here, before I even get anywhere next or near here, well, I'm going to have to ask them, hey, can I enter? Now, for example, you might be saying, right, Murph, what if, if Shannon Tower is only controlling this area, why give them the call out here? That's a good point. On VATSIM, if you had EISN or Shannon Control on, you'll tell them straight away. As soon as you get airborne, Shannon Control, this is Echo India Tango Mike, VFR Birr to Shannon, request entry to the zone for Shannon. Something along those lines. There is a script here, yeah? You could do that, but we're not using Shannon Control this evening. We're just using Shannon Tower. The reason why we're going to give a shout in and around here, I'm going to say Portumna. Portumna is probably a little bit further out, but as I'm planning a flight, and remember, you have to plan. Remember the 7 Ps, yeah? What would happen if what would happen in my plan if I say, well, once I get over to this place, which is called Burke Court, once I get to Burke Court, I'm going to call up Shannon and ask them, may I enter the zone, please? Well, Murphy's Law, what if they say no? Balls. Oh, okay, I got a plan. I got to fly around. I got to do something else. They could say no for whatever reason. There could be traffic. There could be an emergency. There could be anything, right? VFR conditions could change. They could say no. Okay, what happens if they say no? I'm not allowed to enter here at all, right? So, well, I need to plan. So I'll need to turn around and head off somewhere else. This is where your flight planning comes in, yeah? So if I aim to plan a Portumna, Or if I say Birr Court, which one is better for me to work up a solution? How much more time will I have? Well, if I'm at Portumna and I give them a shout and they say no, well, sure, I can say, grand, I'll tip on up to the north or I'll tip on back. I'll be grand, right? You know, if I'm down at Birr Court, I have to immediately respond. I have to react. And if you react, you're not giving yourself enough headspace or time to react to it, and you could end up doing something silly. Plan ahead. Always plan ahead. Plan hard so you fight easy. Anyone who has a military background will know exactly what I'm talking about. You plan hard, right? Or maybe sport. Plan hard, play easy. Oh, behave. But you know what I mean? Put the most amount of effort into your planning. Because then when you have to fly and you're looking after the aircraft, the systems, the navigation and the ATC, well, it's easier to deal with this because you've spent time planning it. That's all right? So we're going to fly from Birr to Portumna. We're going to ask Shannon Tower for an entry into their zone, and then we're going to framble all the way in. We're going to fly in based on what they're going to tell us. We're going to expect runway 24. Now, if they turn around and say runway 06 is now active, any ideas what we need to do here, lads? What did we do over the last few weeks? What have we been practicing at Shannon? Well, we've already worked on the 06 runway, yeah? Departing and arriving. And we are aware, well, there is a circuit. We can enter the traffic circuit or the traffic pattern. So, okay, if 24 is no longer active, it's going to be runway 06. We're flying in from the northeast. Well, there's every chance we can join the circuit on the downwind leg. Remember the downwind leg? We don't need to do an overhead join. Why? But we're not coming on the side or coming at the side of the airport. We're flying directly to it. So we can do a downwind join. So again, it comes into your planning. Don't worry about it for tonight, but this is the fun part of planning. If there can be fun. I enjoy planning. So to me, this is fun, right? What could go wrong will go wrong. That was a Murphyism. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. That's what our flight plan looks like. Grant. We're a VFR flight from Birr to Shannon, and we're going to go via Portumna. Okay, I put that into my VATSIM plan, bippity boppity boop, file the flight plan, and we should be good to go. All right? So I'm going to talk us through it, and I want to make sure that this works, right? Hopefully this works. What does that do? Hang on, lads. Is this working? Did that change my voice? Hang on, why isn't that working? Let's see. There's a button not working here. Hang on. Title. Voice mod needs to be running. It is running. Hang on now, lads. Let's close this. Where's the dog? Stupid thing broke. Hang on, we'll fix it. Don't panic, lads. Voice mod. Open. The things we do. Hey, come on, Stoke is here. Good to see you. Zybok Doc is in the house. Welcome in. Ailerons into wind is away. You take care, my dude. Okay, don't switch audio. Voice off. I just want to make sure that this is working, lads, right?
Now, you could push it in.
Jesus!
You could pull it in or tow it in. Right here.
Who presses these buttons? Right, okay, that should be me now talking with me fancy ATC. Is that working, lads? Give Ireland. Okay, we're good. Right, we're good. Right, so let's say now we've planned our flight, we filed it on VATSIM, now we're going to do the flight. First part of our flight, we'll try and get an ATIS. We're at Birr, there is no ATC. We can't get Shannon just yet because, well, we're on the ground. We need to get up into the air. We've no ATIS. But let's look at the METAR. It'll tell us what...
Give yourself to the dark side.
It'll give us enough information what the METAR is, right? So, we need to talk to traffic, as in Unicom. That's what we're going to start off with, Unicom. And we do the usual. Birr, traffic, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, PA28, taxiing to runway 18, Birr traffic. Okay, we've done that before, yeah? Then we get ready for the departure. Again, we'd shout Birr traffic, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, lining up runway 18, Birr traffic. Then we're going to take off. Taking off runway 18, heading to the southwest. Once we're airborne, Birr traffic, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, a PA28 climbing to 2,500 feet and is leaving the circuit to the southwest, Birr traffic. Now we're en route. So we remain on 122.8, that's Unicom, right? And we're going to overfly Portumna. Once we arrive at Portumna, now we're going to shout Shannon. Because we're going to talk to Shannon Airport and say, hey, can we enter the area? So this is how the conversation is going to sound within reason. I try and do this as best as I can. You'll always have slight deviations, but if you follow this script in its exacting entirety, it'll get you through it. Right? So, Shannon Tower, Echo India. Now, bearing in mind, we're over Portumna, right? Shannon Tower, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Tower, active runway 24, QNH 1011, pass your message. Active runway 24, QNH 1011, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike is a PA 28, 2,500 feet VFR, overhead Portumna, requesting zone entry from the northeast, inbound for a full stop with information Bravo. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, you are cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet VFR. Clear to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet VFR. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, correct. Cleared on track to the field, report in sight. Cleared on track to the field, report in sight. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Now, whoa, that was a whole load of spiel. Let's break it down a bit so you guys understand. I'm contacting Shannon Tower, so I'm going to say, Shannon Tower, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. That's my call sign. Shannon Tower, upon the first time you contact them, will jump back and advise you. In particular, for this lesson, they're going to advise you the active runway and the QNH. Then they're going to tell you to pass your message, right? Castell Gaming, thank you very, very much indeed. 4 months. Thank you very much. Happy Monday to you. So, bearing in mind this lesson specifically, but a lot of the time, on the first time you contact ATC, they're going to tell you what the active runway is, what the QNH is. So they're going to say, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. They're talking to me. Shannon Tower. They're telling me who they are. Active runway is 24. QNH 1011. Pass your message. Okay. Now I need to pass my message, but I also need to repeat that I'm reading the right information. Active runway 24. QNH 1001 or 1011. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. PA 28. 2,500 feet VFR. Overhead Portumna. Requesting zone entry from the northeast, inbound for full stop with information Bravo. Because at this stage, I could have already tuned in to the Shannon ATIS, right? DGS 3103, thank you very, very much indeed. Very kind of you. Now, that's a whole load of information. And bearing in mind, you need to pass all this information to the tower. Who, what, when, where, how, why, kinda, right? So, we're telling them who we are. We are Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, or in your case, it's your call sign. What are we flying in? Well, I'm in a PA 28. You could be in a 172, someone else could be in something else, and so on. It's not important. You just need to tell them what you're in, because they'll have an idea. Well, you can't go, 600 knots, right? Your current altitude, where are you? Well, I'm at 2,500 feet VFR. I'm overhead Portumna. Okay, they now know where I am. Portumna, the controller is going to know where Portumna is because that's the beauty of VATSIM. A lot of the time, the controllers are from that local area or they spent enough time controlling that area. They're very familiar with the surrounding areas, VRPs, landmarks, and so on, right? So we're overhead Portumna. But what do we want? We're requesting zone entry from the northwest. Okay, so you want to enter the Shannon airspace from the northwest. Okay. And we're inbound for a full stop landing. So we want to do a landing at Shannon. We're inbound. We're heading towards you from the north east, and we want to land. And we have information Bravo on board. Now, if you don't have the ATIS, because there is no ATIS, fair enough. They might tell you, tune ATIS, or they might remind you, but don't worry about that. So there's a whole load of talking here, but don't worry. When you break it down, it makes sense. Who are we? What are we? Where are we? And what do we want? When you break it down like that, well, okay, well, who are we? Call sign and aircraft type. Okay. Where are you? Well, I'm over here at this altitude. Okay. What do you want? Well, I want to land, please. It's very simple when you start breaking it down. It's all wrapped up in this shroud of, I can't get my head around it. If you read it that way, that's how to do it. That'll get you through it. In particular, flying at Shannon. That'll work, right? The controller might advise a couple of things. Listen, mate, you don't need to say it that way. Or listen, mate, yeah, you don't. Grand. But if you do this exactly, it'll work. It works, right? So ATC then comes back onto me and says, Murph, or Echo India Tango Tango Mike, you are cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet. Now, he didn't give me a landing instruction. He just said, okay, come on in. You're allowed to enter the zone. But don't go above 2,500 feet or we'll burst you, right? So we'll say, okay, cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet VFR. ATC will then confirm, Grant, you're cleared on track to the field, report in sight. Now, this is where it gets a little bit, not difficult, but it might change a bit. They might at this stage say, you're cleared on track to the field, or they might tell you, caution, there's other aircraft operating along your flight path, right? There's a helicopter there. Epic Fool is doing yacky boos in his front garden. Be careful of him. That sort of crack. So don't be worried if you hear additional information. What's important here is you're cleared on track to the field. The field in this case is not, Hassett's Field across. No, it's the airfield, the airport. Cleared on track to the field, cleared on track to the airport, cleared on track to the station, whatever. You're cleared to head that direction. Report it when it's in sight. I can see the airport. That's what we're, So cleared on track, report the field in sight. So our arrival. We continue to approach Shannon, and once we can see the airport, visually, there's the airport over there, look. Well, we give them a shout. Echo India Tango Tango Mike has the airport in sight. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, continue approach, runway 24. Number 1, report final. Ooh. Continue approach, runway 24. We'll report final. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. As soon as we reach the final leg, and remember the circuit, yeah? Final, we're coming straight in. Report on final. Okay. We're now going to give them a shout. Echo India Tango Tango Mike on final, runway 24. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, wind 2005 knots, runway 24, clear to land. Clear to land, runway 24, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. In theory, we've just gotten from an uncontrolled airport, requested an entry into an air traffic control zone, not even vectored, we flew towards our approach line and we got clear to land and we've just landed. That's how simple it is if you follow the little book, all right? Word for word. Just read it. Can't go wrong if you read it, right? And then once we land, we're going to vacate. This is important for tonight because when we land at Shannon, let's have a look. And this is where our planning comes in, yeah? This is where our planning comes in. So we're going to be landing on runway 24. If we're absolute mad lads, we could exit at Charlie, meaning that we only have a teeny runway to land. Let's not make life difficult. For this lesson only, let's make life a little bit more easier. Our exit point or our vacating point is going to be Alpha. So we're going to land on runway 24 and we're going to vacate the runway at Alpha. And remember, you haven't vacated the runway until you have passed the whole short line. You got to get over that line. Now you vacate it. All right. Once you vacate the runway, advise the tower, Shannon Tower, you just say Echo India Tango Tango Mike has vacated onto Alpha. Now, you could say as the pilot, request taxi to parking. Or you just say nothing, I vacated. And then tower might say, okay, I'm going to hand you over to ground now, good luck. Or in some cases on VATSIM, they mightn't have a ground controller. The tower looked after tower and ground. VATSIM have a top-down authority system. So if there's no ground and tower's there, well, the tower will look after the ground as well. So the tower could say, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Roger, where do you want to go? Do you want parking or do you want to stand? Or please state your intentions. Or he might just say, to make life very easy, because he knows what I'm going to do, right? It's a full stop landing. He'll just say, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, taxi via Alpha, the apron, to the general aviation parking. Okay, I'll say taxi via Alpha, the apron, general aviation parking, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. And that's it. Done. Done and dusted, lads, right? Done and dusted. So, what we're going to do now, boys and girls, we're going to jump onto the radios. And in the radios, we have all these over on VATSIM or over on Discord. And this is what, now you can do it here, you can do it there, but what I'm going to say for anyone who's new here, or perhaps people haven't tried it out yet, well, give it a blast. In the Pilot Ops channel that I've just closed, in the Pilot Ops channel, behind me head here, look, right? You'll see that I have some voice channels. You'll see Unicom, you'll see Shannon Tower, Shannon Ground Support, and the ATC Lounge, right? If you'd like, if you want to listen in, but sure, jump onto Unicom. Now, just remember, set your microphone up as push to talk and keep yourself muted if you don't want to talk. If you don't want to talk and just listen, jump in here and just keep yourself muted. You can press a button down the bottom that says mute or unmute. Yeah, you can press that button down there. So if you want to just jump in to have a listen to see how everything is, this is your chance to do it, because you're going to hear everyone else talking. Don't be afraid of it. You don't have to say anything. You can just jump in and have a listen. You'll hear what the other guys are saying. Unicom doesn't have any controllers. It's just pilots advising other pilots what's happening. A little bit later on, once I get down to Shannon, you can see that Gibbo Ireland is looking after our Shannon frequency. Epic's just jumped on as well. Again, once we start arriving down here and you see more people jumping in, well, jump into the Shannon frequency, because now you're going to listen to someone, Gibbo, controlling us. He's going to be giving us information. And that's exactly how it's going to sound on VATSIM. So, don't be afraid. Jump in. You don't have to speak. You don't have to do anything. But have a listen, because it'll help. And if you're reading the manual or the document, right, that we were showing you earlier, if you follow that along, you'll listen to what people are saying. You're going to get a good idea of what's happening. All right? So, are we all aboard for the moment? Are we all aboard? Gibbo already manned the tower. Gibbo is the man of the tower. Now, right, so we have our flight plan. Let's just say now we've done all our due diligence. We've done everything with VATSIM. We've done everything. So there's no ATIS. So I have no ATIS to report, which is, it's totally fine, right? Totally fine. So here we are, and I'm going to turn on the multiplayer just so we can see what's happening. So I'm going to go into the sim, into our data. And how are we looking there for time? I think we're going good for time. So it's a quick spin down to Birr. Oh, Jesus. A quick spin down to Birr, right? So we'll give the sim a couple of minutes for folks to load in, right? So here I am in my beautiful, beautiful Archer. She's a little cracker, this one, isn't it? So the active runway in Birr, by the way, lads, is runway 18. We're going to be departing runway 18, right? Come on, Stoke, just gifted 5 tier 1 subs, look. Jeez. Thank you very, very much indeed, man. That's insanely kind of you. Insanely kind. I have to say, lads, I've warned you already, right? But anything that's received in the month of May, well, it goes into the old bank account in the month of June. And by the time Twitch kind of give you the few bob after they take what they need out of it, right? But it lands in Murph's account, and I'll just happen to be in at the expo in Houston, and I'll be like, oh, Twitch sent me a payment. Pints, lads. But thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Very kind of you. Campia flies an Archer 3 in real life. Oh, nice. Yeah, Murphy will not remember June at all. Murph, were you in Texas this year? What? I remember getting on a plane. I remember having a sore head a week later. Yeah, must have been Texas, yeah. Do you know? And Mr. Two-Tone will take control of the card. Yes, yes, he will. One card to rule them all. Right, so let's have a listen here on VATSIM on our Discord. And we should be getting some information on Unicom here now in a moment. So I'm going to turn off the nameplates, because I want other pilots to report to me their position so we have an idea of what's happening. Yeah. So before we get going here, let me see, what do I need? Up here the pilot just for single pilot operations, and GPS. I'll use this 750 because I just like it. Okay, so disappear this. So here we are in a PA-28 Archer. This is the Carinada one. So let's just make sure everything's locked. Fuel tank is turned off. And, well, we should be good to go here as well. Open the little window. All right. And this is where, like, lads, this is where Flight Sim gets so much fun, because now, not only are you going to go through your procedures of your aircraft and getting everything set up, and you've done all your planning and whatever else, and then you get to talk to ATC as well. Like, the workload is real. And this is where flight simulation really comes into its own when it comes to assisting real-world pilots in training. That workload, the sense of many tasks and the management of all these tasks, that is the closest you can get to real world flying. If you can learn that stuff and be comfortable with it, the physical elements of actually flying, the load bearing, the forces exerted on your body, that's easier compared to all of this stuff, at least for some people. I find it easier to fly a plane, and rule number one, the plane has to be allowed to fly. I mean, you can't just, you know what I mean? Like a learner driver. You ever see a learner driver on a steering wheel and they're like constantly making fine adjustments? Yeah, don't do that in an airplane. Telling you, first time you get up there, be loosey-goosey, man. The plane needs to fly. Let it fly. Of course, you can add in a bit of corrections here and there, but keep it smooth. You will have a much better experience by keeping it smooth. Remain in control, but keep it smooth. Yeah. Some people have bad experiences when they're given the controls for the first time because they go into learner driver mode and are constantly trying to adjust because the plane is doing something they don't want it to do. Planes move, they bob, they weave, they go all over the shop in the air. You have to be fluid. Let the thing fly. It's very hard to kind of explain that to you until you're actually up there doing it. But I promise you, if you try it, it'll change your experience when you fly. Completely, right? Right, now, we're about to go flying. So what do we need to do? Well, battery. Battery on. I got some lights on here now as well. Anti-collision lights, but we don't have a beacon light. These lights should be on. Alternator on as well. Fuel pump. Mixture rich. Open the throttle. Fuel pump off. Throttle full. Fuel pump on. Off. We can see a positive fuel flow. We'll go for the mags, right, left, and both. All right, we're going to say clear prop. Yeah, big Agent Murphy. Don't forget to turn on the fuel pump.
November Kilo Romeo 54. Engine start and taxi to active. Engine start and taxi to active.
What happened there?
That's a big 10-4, good buddy.
Hey, Joey Polo's here. Good to see you. Come on, Stoke. Did you just do something again? He did! Did you see what he did? He did it again! Come on, Stoke, you madman!
That's a big 10-4, good buddy.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Jesus, thank you. Thank you very, very much. The kindness. Please, by Gibber Ireland, I'm Muse fan, a drink.
Birr traffic, Memorial 64 Mike, taxiing to runway 18, Birr traffic.
We got a Spitfire here, look. Come on, Stoke. Please buy Gibbo and Muse a drink in June. I will, come on, Stoke. It'll be the finest pint of natural spring water you've ever seen in your... I'm only joking. It won't be a pint, it'll be a glass of water each. I'm only joking. Jesus. It'll be I'll give him a sup of a pint, right? I owe us about 10 each already. I kind of do. The work that these lads do in the background, yeah. But don't tell them that. Then they get cocky. Right, okay. So we started up our aircraft. Come on, Murphy, you can do it. I need an avionics switch. There it is. Some interesting call signs here as well, lads. Memorial we've just heard. I wonder, is that the Spitfire? Right? I was going to say, Murph, just half each. Brilliant. All right, so we panel lights here? Okay, so let me see. We're going to do a couple of things. So there's no flight plan as such. I'm just going to hand fly it, as was my want. Barometric pressures needs to be set to the local elevation, which it is. It's very dark in here, isn't it? Carb heat don't need. Defroster don't need. Door is closed, latch is locked. Okay. All right, we're good. So now we talk to ATC because, well, now we talk to Unicom. We're going to tell them what we're doing, right? So we need to tune over to Unicom. 122.8 transfer. We're on Unicom on VATSIM. So it's simple. Let me see. What's what? Birr traffic. Echo India Tango Tango Mike is a PA28. Parking at General Aviation. Taxiing to runway 18. Birr traffic. Okay, I've told everyone in Birr traffic what I'm doing. So parking brake comes off. With a power Murph. Yup, you did it. Now this aircraft is a little bit different, so our transponder is going to be set to VFR. We don't turn it on just yet. We wait until we get airborne. Now I can see there's other traffic here, so because I'm on Unicom, right, I can talk to the other guys. Birr traffic, I can see a Spitfire here, a PA-28 coming up on your 3 o'clock. Just wondering, are you holding short for runway 18?
A firm, Memorial 64 Mike.
Cool, we'll wait up beside you. And that's what you can use Unicom for.
Birr traffic, Memorial 64 Mike, lining up runway 18. We'll be making a crosswind departure to the west. Birr traffic.
Okay. That Spitfire, that's fast moving. I don't want to get into his way at all. But that's what you can do on Unicom. You can actually, hey, what are you doing? Now I know what he's doing. Sweet. Okay. I'll continue on my taxi, right?
Traffic Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo says now 172, taxiing to runway 18, Birr traffic.
Okay, we got another aircraft behind us taxiing out through. There is the Ormond Flying Club. Now there's two ways I can
Birr
line up.
traffic. November Kilo Romeo 54. A Junkers 87 is will follow the Archer 2. Will follow the Archer 2. Birr traffic.
There you go. So if you hear it twice, don't worry. That's someone just has the audio on in the background. Don't worry about it, right? So it's up to us again. Birr traffic, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, a PA-28 Archer 2 lining up runway 18, Birr traffic. So I'm telling them I'm now lining up in this runway, right? It's my runway. I'm in charge, right? How are you, horse? Now again, before you get onto any runway, lads, you're looking out the window, you're making sure nothing's going to upset you, and you're looking down the end of the runway to make sure it's clear as well, yeah? So at this stage, make sure our transponder is activated. Our landing light is already on. 1 knot of flaps for takeoff. And we're going to line up. So, it's up to us again. Birr traffic, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, a PA-28 taking off runway 18. We're going to be heading southwest. Birr traffic. Okay, we're good to go. Mixture rich. Lights are on. Flaps are set. We're walking, talking, and squawking. Power coming in.
Birr traffic, Memorial 64 Mike, departed the circuit, where we'll be maneuvering north of Portumna at 2,500 feet. Birr traffic.
Ooh, curveball. Hey, Alison is here. Good to see you. Here's 60 knots. Upsy daisy. All right. We are airborne. Easy does it now, Murph. Flight runway heading. We're going to be departing to the southeast. And remember, the traffic circuit, it's a right-hand circuit at Birr, so at 500 feet, we turn 90 degrees to the right. It's 400 feet. Bring our flaps
Birr
up.
traffic. November Kilo Romeo 54 is taking the active at this time. Runway 18. Birr traffic.
Hey, there's another aircraft behind us. Birr traffic, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, PA-28, departing the circuit to the southeast, climbing to 2,500. Birr traffic.
Traffic, Golf 249 Tango Mike, Cessna 172, taxi to runway 18, Birr traffic.
Okay, we're doing well.
Birr traffic, Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo holding short, runway 18, Birr traffic.
Okay, so we're now leaving the circuit to the west. We're heading to the southwest. And, well, we're going to head up to Portumna now, right? Now, you might have heard someone else said they were going up to Portumna, so we got to be a little bit careful of what's happening here, yeah? Now, what can we do with autopilot? Is there no autopilot in this airplane? Good man, Murphy, you picked the right plane for tonight. Let's see if we change this and make life easier. Autopilot.
Departing area.
Let's go. Autopilot.
Southeast.
Heading. Now, what's my heading going to be? Somewhere there. 290 will do. And altitude, we're going to lock this in at 2,500 feet. And we can climb V-speed up a smidgen, 1,000. Still on Unicom, so we're just having to listen out to hear what we're going to hear, yeah?
taking off runway 18, heading south.
So I can hear everyone behind me, what they're doing. And our first little area that we're gonna fly to, of course, is Portumna. Yeah. So autopilot master switch needs to go on here.
Cessna 172 is
It's not working.
runway 18, Birr traffic.
Really, there's no autopilot? Well, the curse of. Right, okay, don't worry. Hand flyer, Murph. Eamon, you take care of me, dude. So we're gonna hand fly it. So bring our speed down a little bit. And let's see what the crack is. Now we're still on Unicom. We were told that there's going to be a Spitfire doing maneuvers in and around Portumna area. So we just need to be careful here, yeah?
Birr traffic, Golf 249 Tango Mike, Cessna 172 is taking off runway 18, heading southwest Birr traffic.
There we go. So on Unicom, it's the pressure's off us a little bit, yeah? I mean, really, the pressure's off us. We're only talking to ourselves. We just need to be aware of other aircraft now in the vicinity. Is Unicom
traffic, Delta Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot.
Yeah, Unicom is kind of a real thing. They usually have, there's other frequencies like 123.45, there's like pilot chatter and stuff like that. There are kind of...
Birr traffic, Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo Cessna 172 climbing to 2,500 and leaving the circuit to the southwest. Birr traffic.
Perfect voice procedure, lads. These are nailing it, nailing it. So I'm just going to give a shout ahead here now because I'm close enough-ish. And again, right, the Skyway code, etiquette while flying. You got to be careful. Don't overtake. Don't barge your way through. If you're going to be overtaking, make sure there's a good bit of separation between you. You know what I mean? So that Spitfire was Mercy something or Memorial Flight. Memorial Spitfire. This is Echo India Tango Tango Mike, a PA-28. We're approaching Portumna from the south east. Altitude 2,300 feet. Just to be aware, we're going to be flying Portumna and then onto Shannon.
Traffic calling Roger, Memorial 6 for Mike. We're just north of Portumna doing some aerobatics. We'll be between altitudes 2,500 and 4,000 feet. We'll keep an eye out for you.
Cool. Have fun. See ya.
See ya.
So, what I'm doing there is just what you would do in the real world and also on VATSIM. You're on Unicom. I'm aware there's a Spitfire somewhere up the road doing all sorts of jiggery pokery, right? Well, I'm giving him a shout because if he's doing aerobatics, like I do aerobatics, it's very difficult to know, well, what else is happening up here. So at least if I'm saying, hey man, I'm rambling up your direction, but this is my altitude. I'm in around 2,300 feet. And he's saying, listen, I'm to the north. I'm going to operate between 2,500 feet and higher, beltaway. That's how ATC works. And there's no voice procedure for that. There's no, you must say this. It's just saying, hey man, I'm in this area. Just be aware of that. And that's what we're doing. It's that simple. So don't be afraid, especially on Unicom, just to give a shout out. It's not there to say, so tell me, how does it make you feel? You know, what did you buy in the shops the weekend? Did you see the price of that avocado? You don't go down that road, right? It's clear, concise information relating to air traffic control. That's what you're feeding them, all right? Now, as the good pilot that Murphy is, well, my next airport I'm going to call is going to be Shannon, right? So I'm going to tune my radios into Shannon, which is going to be 118.7. So to do that, I open my radio and we'll go 118.7. I won't transfer it yet, but if I want to, I could monitor it, yeah? I could now be monitoring Shannon. We'll leave it be for the moment. So I'm about to overfly Portumna. I'm now at 2,000 feet. I'm kind of, you know, we're okay 1,000 here and there.
Traffic, Delta Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot, Cessna 172 climbing to 2,500 feet and leaving the circuit to the southwest. Traffic.
Okay, so soaring AJ, you can hear us, but you're not able to transmit. So it sounds like you have some sort of a button set up in your Discord, which is set to push to talk. Okay? Meaning you need to find a button on your system that when you press, it'll activate push to talk. To do that, just go to your user settings on Discord, go down to voice and video, and it'll tell you what your input mode is. I'll show you this briefly. So soaring AJ, have a look here, dude. Go down to the bottom of the screen where your username is. Beside that, you'll see a gear icon. Click on the gear icon, and then you ramble all the way down to where it says voice and video. In your voice and video, make sure your input device is set to your actual microphone, and your output device, we know that's working. Make sure your input volume is up, and your input mode is set push to talk. All you need to do is set a push to talk button by hit record the keybind. Then you can check your audio test. If your mic test is giving you green bars in here, it's working. Okay, so when you start talking, if you have green bars in here, it should be working. And failing that, Epic Fool just said he's after jumping onto the support voice channel on our Discord, so have a jump in there, alright? Okay, so I'm now over Portumna. I'm going to swap my frequency over to Shannon, and let's see what happens here. Now remember, this is the big spiel, lads. This is the big spiel, yeah? So we're overhead Portumna, we're at 2,000 feet. So this is what the crack is going to be, right? Shannon Tower, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Tower, good evening. Active runway 24, QNH 1011, pass your message.
Active runway 24, QNH 1011. Echo India Tango Tango Mike is a PA-28, currently at 2,300 feet VFR, overhead Portumna, requesting zone entry from the northeast, inbound for a full stop, with information Bravo.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, roger. You are cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet VFR.
Cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet VFR, Echo India Tango Tango Mike.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, read back correct. Cleared on track to the field, report in sight.
Cleared on track to the field and will report in sight, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Okay, I'm after getting clearance to enter the control zone. I'm now allowed to fly within Shannon airspace. However, I'm not allowed to go above 2,500 feet. So I'm going to continue my approach, and the instruction that ATC has given me, I need to report back or call him once I see the airport in sight. Okay, brilliant. So I'm now going to continue my approach. I'm looking out the window, keeping an eye on my altitude and my speed. I'm looking out for other traffic, right? You'll notice that he didn't need to give me a squawk code. There's no need for it. If it got very, very busy, if the controller was absolutely very busy, yes, he would then issue me with a squawk code. Hey, I want you to squawk this so he can keep an eye on me, yeah? But he can see my squawk, I'm VFR 7,000. There's probably enough spacing between me and the next aircraft. He can see the gap. Yeah, I know who this guy is. Do you know what I mean? Would you have all of this wrote down on an iPad in real life, or just remember it? A lot of this, Big Al, it's quite repetitive. A lot of this is quite repetitive. And a lot of times, people can kind of predict what they're going to say, right? For this course, what we're doing, I've written everything down word for word. It's color-coded. Pilot is the green, and it says pilot, and ATC is blue, and it says ATC. So by you reading both, and even practice just read the script to yourself. It's really, really helpful because you start getting the flows of communication. Some of the words might change, the accents will definitely change, right? But the flows will always remain the same. Hey, this is what I want.
Shannon Tower, Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo.
So here's more people chatting on the frequency.
Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo, Shannon Tower, good evening. Active runway 24, QNH 1011, pass your message.
Active runway 24, QNH 1011, Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo, Cessna 172, 2,500 VFR, overhead Pomona, request zone entry from the northwest inbound for full stop. Information Bravo.
Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo, roger. You are cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,000 feet VFR.
DH Paradox, is English the common language ATC across the world? Yeah. Yeah. They'll always use English. Like if you're flying locally in France, the controller might give you an old bonjour and whatever. Soaring AJ, I can't see it on Discord. We will get this sorted. It's got to be frustrating.
Charlie Echo, read back correct.
But we will get this sorted, Soaring AJ. Sure, look who's here. Hans Gruber is here. 24 months. Hans Gruber, 2 years, man. Thank you very, very much. I hope you're keeping well. Hey, Kingsman is here. Good to see you.
Shannon Tower. November Kilo Romeo 54. A Junkers 87. Have runway inside.
So, Soaring AJ, don't worry if it's acting. Oh, I see you here now, right? We will get this fixed.
Shannon Tower.
User volume, right? You have all the roles, like you can talk, right? So it's not a permissions thing.
November Kilo Romeo.
It could be a local security thing. I don't know what it is, but we will get you sorted, dude. We will get you sorted.
Winds 200 at 5 knots, runway 24, clear to land.
Ooh, someone's going in for landing.
November Kilo Romeo 54, clear to land, runway 24.
Nice.
Tower.
Nice.
Golf 249er Tango Mike, pass your message, Shannon Tower.
Jody, he is. He was played by your man, what was his name? Alan Rickman. Was that Hans Gruber? Gibbo's doing a sterling job. That's Gibbo Ireland on the frequencies for Shannon. So I want to get down there to him quick and give him a dig out.
249er Tango Mike, Shannon Tower, pass your message.
He's doing great though.
Shannon Tower, Golf 249 Tango Mike.
Golf 249er Tango Mike, Shannon Tower, good evening. Active runway 24, QNH 1011, pass your message.
Active runway 24, QNH 1011, Golf 249 Tango Mike, and Cessna 172.
Yeah, he was a legend, Castell.
VFR.
Legend.
Head Port Tumner, requesting zone entry.
That's right, DH Paradox, he did. He played him.
Inbound for full
great actor. So what I'm doing here, I'm listening into the chatter, right? Because I want to know what's going on ahead of me, yeah, and well behind me. Looking around the aircraft,
249er,
I'm keeping an eye out for, you know,
you are clear to enter the zone from the
other
northeast,
traffic,
not above 2,500
any alerts,
VFR.
Making sure I don't bust the traffic or the altitude restriction of 2,500 feet, right? And my last instruction from ATC, that's why it is handy to write this stuff down. My last instruction, I need to report back to them once I see the airport. I can't see the airport just yet. It's a little bit further on. All right. Still the cowboy, Mr. Clay. First time John Wayne does not walk into the sunset with Grace Kelly. What a movie! What a movie!
Delta Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot Shannon Tower. Good evening. Active runway 24 QNH 1011. Pass your message.
Nice little plane, this, isn't it?
Active runway.
Now we can't see traffic. This is how the real world. Unless you have ADSB, you can't see other traffic. However, in the sim, suddenly I can see all the name tags behind me. This is what everyone is doing. So I can see Big Papa Polly's behind me, PA28. He can probably see me at this stage.
From the northeast.
Now Shannon Tower, because I'm in comms with them, they could at any moment call my frequency or call my call sign and say, hey, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, turn right heading. They might have to because, well, traffic starts getting busy.
Northeast, not above 2,000 feet.
Cyborg, don't worry, it's a fixed landing gear. They won't budge.
The zone from northeast, not above 2,500 feet Delta.
Yippee-ki-yay. What a movie.
Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot, correction 2,000.
What's your favourite Die Hard movie, lads?
You are cleared on track to the field. Please report in sight.
2,000 feet.
So in real life, how would you how close would a plane have to be before you would see it? It's actually easier to see aircraft at nighttime because of the lights, but in daytime, it depends on your eyesight. It depends on the angle of the sun and the weather. There's a couple of things, right? You could see aircraft up to and including, 3 or 4 kilometers, depending if it's a small plane. If it's a big jet, you can see them miles away, miles and miles. Yeah, the first one. I think the first one was I really like the second one because it's at an airport. Dullest control. Right, your man. But I don't get why he's all, buff naked at the start doing his BJs and stuff. Remember that scene? That was a tad bit appropriate or inappropriate to see the crack of his. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
Birr to Shannon via Portumna, currently 4,000 feet above Portumna. Request zone entry inbound for a full stop landing. Information Bravo.
Memorial 6-4 Mike. Roger. You are cleared to enter the zone from the northeast, not above 2,500 feet, VFR.
Cleared into the zone, not above altitude 2,500 feet, VFR. Memorial 6-4 Mike.
Memorial 6-4 Mike, correct. Cleared on track to the field. Report inside.
Cleared on track and Wilco. Memorial 6-4 Mike.
So far, so good, lads. Everyone is doing a great job. Like, everyone is doing a great job. And, like, to be fair to Gibbo, lads, Gibbo is not an ATC controller. He's like me. We don't do ATC controlling. He's doing really, really well, considering. It's not even considering. He's doing really, really well. So, big shout out to Gibbo. But, best Christmas movie, Die Hard. It's not Christmas without Die Hard, right? Now, I'm still scanning for that airport. I can't see it yet. And these, you know, weather-wise, this is perfect VFR conditions. I mean, it's beautiful. I have minimum distance from clouds. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny day. And the sim is behaving it well because the aircraft is kind of bumping around up here. General aviation aircraft don't like the heat. They don't like bright sunshine and the heat. Why? Because it gets turbulent. They get bumped and thrown around the place. You have all sorts of thermals moving through the air. You know what I'm saying? But we're flying well. We're staying beneath 2,500 feet, as was our instruction. And we're just rambling in towards Shannon. Big Al says, I love listening to our local ATC guy. Oh, yeah. Whoa, Black Box 711 in the house. Welcome in, Raiders. Happy Monday, everybody. Black Box, thank you very, very much indeed. We're here doing some VFR VATSIM lessons. Would you believe it? And it's open to Xbox pilots because we're using our Discord to staff up the frequencies. We're doing a flight in Ireland. We've just departed Birr Airfield on Unicom with no ATC coverage. And we've just now entered the Shannon control zone. We've contacted Shannon Tower. We have requested access into the zone. And we've been cleared to track and report when the airport is in sight. We should start seeing the airport very soon, in which then we'll call up Shannon and let them know where we are. And we're expecting a landing clearance for runway 24, right? So I'm in a Piper Archer. Here, look at something cool. Look at this on the ground.
Shannon Tower. November Kilo Romeo
That's the lads on
54.
ATC. Do you ever see that in the sim, lads? Look. That's an actual satellite image taken with an aircraft with contrail. Look at that. That's deadly. Black Box, thank you very, very much. Finally able to return a raid. Not at all. Thank you very, very much. Guys, if you don't know who Black Box 711 is, Muse, if you have a second, can you do the honors with the thingy with the yoke? A fantastic content creator. I've learned so much from his channel. And a really enjoyable interview you did with Blue and XP. Fascinating. And well, thank you very, very much.
myself to introduce myself.
He did the thing, look. Thank you very, very much, Muse. And lads, be sure to check out Black Box's channel. Awesome, awesome stuff. Are you going to Houston by any chance?
Fuel is over on ground. If you want to jump into that Discord channel just to get your clearance to parking.
Oh, sweet. Epic Food is on ground.
Sure, I'll get fully parked and then I'll try.
Now, let's have a look. I think I see an airport.
All right, buddy.
We got an airport. Hey, Captain Arash is here.
Dreamy, sleepy,
Welcome
nighty,
in.
snoozy, snooze.
Captain Arash, that's 2 years. You haven't aged a day. Thank you very, very much indeed. Oh, really, Black Box? No holidays until November? Well, don't worry, man. We'll be there. A beer shall be drank in your honor. And, yeah, we'll keep you up to date. We'll let you know. Right, we need to talk to Tower here. Wait and hear this, look. Easy now, Murph. I'm at 2,000 feet, right?
Oh, behave.
There's all things happening here. Hey, Mongo's here. Many thanks for the bits. Echo India, Tango Tango Mike has the airport in sight.
Echo India, Tango Tango Mike. Continue approach, runway 24. Your number 1, report on final.
Continue approach runway 24 and we'll report final. Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Nice. So the information I just got from ATC, I'm allowed to continue my approach to runway 24. I'm number 1, meaning there's no one else in front of me.
Echo Shannon Tower, Roger.
And all I need to do is report when I'm on final. So we go back to our circuit or traffic pattern that we were working on the last couple of weeks. And we say, oh, okay, we're for flying into runway 24. We're heading straight in. So we're actually going to join the circuit on final. Anyone who's new here, who came in with that amazing raid from Black Box, you're all very welcome, by the way. I am Murph. I'm called many things, but Murph, Murph, right? It's usually hey you behind the bushes. But if you click on, or if you type in !Discord, right? I've made a document, or in fact, I think if you just put in !ATC, there's a code anyway, but it'll give you access to the document we're working off. And what I've done, I've typed out word for word what ATC says and what the pilot should say in a VFR environment. And we have a number of these lessons done. Like the document, it's just like 98 pages of stuff in this, right? But it is, it's designed to give you a helping hand. See how you get on with it. If you ever wanted to try online flying, right? Hey, Ice is here. Good to see you, man. He says, fair play to you more for making VATSIM more accessible to the masses. Ah, dude, like, flying on VATSIM, like, what an amazing way to enhance your flight simulation experience. Not all of the time, but, you know, it'll definitely enhance it, you know?
Hear the approach, roger the traffic, and we'll report final. Memorial 6 for Mike.
Now, if we had any distance measuring equipment on board, which we do, I mean, with GPS, we have a DME on the aircraft, we could get an actual distance from that runway. I hazard a guess we're about a 5-mile final. I'm going to report this to the tower and let's see what he says. Right, so we're going to start reducing our speed here as well. Echo India Tango Tango Mike, final runway 24.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, winds 200 at 5 knots, runway 24. You are clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 24, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Now, I don't need to repeat back the weather information. He's just giving me information. Winds 200 at 5
Memorial
knots.
6 for Mike, we're visual with the Cessna 172 in front.
So bring our speed back, and now we're going to fly this in.
6 for Mike, roger.
The reason why we're doing this all on Discord for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's a safe environment for us to practice without being worried that we've made a mistake on VATSIM. The second reason is, well, it's for our Xbox pilots. We have a lot of Xbox pilots with Microsoft Flight Sim who currently don't have access to anything like a VATSIM or Pilot Edge or otherwise. So we're trying to bridge that gap by at least giving you the chance to do a bit of training and a couple of flights simulating ATC to the best of our abilities when using, you know, Flight Sim on your Xbox. So we try and do these every Monday, and as I said, there's a full course there with all the information. So it's everything's free. Grab it, you know. Right, here we go now. We have our landing clearance.
Memorial 6 for Mike established, a 9-mile final.
Ooh. There's a couple of curveballs coming in.
Memorial 6-4 Mike, roger. Winds 200 at 5 knots, runway 24, clear to land, caution.
Arch is in the house. Welcome in, Arch NDA, and welcome in, Raiders. Jesus, lads, we're getting... Batten down the hatches, lads. Tommy, Willie, cover the back wall. We're getting invaded here, lads. Raided. Thank you very much, Arch. Welcome in the viewers of Arch NDA, and of course the Black Box as well. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday. Very nice of you to join us. Look at that for timing. I'm about to land, look.
Charlie Echo, roger.
Arch, 4 months as well, dude. Thank you very, very much.
Caution, Spitfire.
Twisted Mexican is here. Good to see you. All right, Murphy, fly the plane. Bear with me, lads.
Allow myself to introduce
Good man, Muse.
myself.
Right, it's going to get very busy for Gibbo, so we're going to give him a hand here now in a sec. Now I'm going to extend my landing because I know I'm going to vacate on Alpha, right? So I'm going to extend my landing a little bit because if I stay on the runway too long, that will create a problem for...
Dreamy, sleepy, nighty, snoozy, snooze.
That was terrifying. That'll that'll create a problem for other traffic behind me. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just going to fly down here a little bit. Taking my time, gently descending. Bring the power back. And slowly but surely start flaring, holding the nose, bleeding some speed. And we'll just take our time and meander down the runway here. Shannon
That's
Airport.
right, friends. Look at this car right here.
Shannon Airport has a massive runway. There's touchdown. All right. Keep the speed up. Shannon Airport runway was used as a backup runway for the space shuttle. It's massive. How come the lads found all the sound alerts?
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Shannon Tower. Please expedite vacating the runway. There is a Spitfire on final.
Roger, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, vacating runway now onto Alpha, looking for parking to general aviation parking.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, Roger. Please contact ground on 121.8. Epic is there. See ya.
Over ground on 121.8 for Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Thank you very much for your service. You legend. Right, here we go. We're now clear of the runway. And we'll tune up ground. So 1 second out. 121.8 transfer. 121.8. Okay, we'll help Gibbo it now in a second. Shannon ground, Echo India Tango Tango Mike, vacated the runway on Alpha, request parking to general aviation parking.
Echo India Tango Tango Mike, welcome to Shannon. Please taxi Alpha, the apron, and then directly into the GA.
Taxi Alpha and the apron directly into GA parking for Echo India Tango Tango Mike.
And Echo India Tango Tango Mike, if you can call us back when you're shutting down, we think it's going to be a little bit busy.
We'll call you back at shutdown for Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Okay. I'd say Port El Gibbo now. I say there's pints of Guinness queuing up. So here's a trick. You might be able to see it now. If the traffic levels get very, very high at an airport, and remember, this is now extreme, not pressure, but like it's extreme concentration for the controller. And another thing we have to bear in mind here, lads, we don't have radar. That's one thing we don't have. We don't have radar, right? So Gibbo is depending on what his sim can see and what he can see and what the people are telling him, yeah? But there is no radar. So at a very busy airport, because I just heard someone saying, hey, I can see another aircraft, should I go around? Usually you don't need to ask the question. You're the pilot. If you see something obstructing it, you don't need permission, or you don't need to wait for someone to tell you to go around. You make the call. Shannon Tower, whatever your call sign is, I'm going around. Okay. Shannon Tower might say, okay, enter the circuit and report on downwind. So you don't need to ask the tower permission to go around. You just go around. If it's a missed approach, if you're not flying the way you want to, you're too high, you're too fast, you just go around and you report it. Okay? Because if you're asking the tower, then the tower has to say, whoop, what's happening? Where are you? What are you doing? You know what I mean? So you call it. You're the pilot. If you're approaching and it's not right, there's an obstruction or something's wrong, you tell the tower what you're doing. You're the pilot. You stay in control of your airplane. I'm going around. Don't like it. It smells like chicken. You know what I mean? Why don't I have radar? It's a limitation within Microsoft Flight Sim. There's no radar. We're not able to use a radar. If we're on VATSIM, yes, we have radar, but we've no radar here. You know what I mean? Every approach is a go around with the option to land. Captain Arash, that is so true. Where did you learn that? Because I heard that from a pilot years ago. That's okay, Big Papa Polly, that's okay. So what Captain Arash has said, that is absolutely true. It's so true. Every approach is a go around with the option to land. Expect the unexpected, always plan, yeah? So our last instruction from Shannon Ground was to give him a shout once we're at general aviation parking at engine shutdown. Echo India Tango Tango Mike is now at general aviation parking and about to shut down.
Roger that, Echo India Tango Tango Mike. Thanks for that. Talk to you later.
See you. Right, sweet. So what I do from here, landing light, anti-collision light, avionics come off, and we shut down our airplane. That is our flight complete. At this stage, we would then disconnect from the network, and that will be logged as a successful ATC flight, start to finish, from an uncontrolled airport to a controlled airport, right? Now, we'll jump on to Gibbo. Let's see how he's getting on.
249 Tango Mike.
He's busy, I'd say. Hang on, we'll do this. So let's see what Gibbo can see. Turn on the name tags. They seem to be okay, actually, don't they?
Hello there.
If your radio
Zulu
goes
Sierra
out...
India Charlie Echo on downwind, runway 24, Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo.
Zulu Sierra India Charlie Echo Roger, you are number 3 for landing. Caution. What is that one? That is caution traffic ahead. Cleared for landing runway 24.
The instruction is still getting across. There's no issue. So he's actually telling that aircraft, okay, you're number 3. There's 2 more ahead of you. You will be cleared to land. Keep an eye out. Okay. Right.
Memorial 6 for Mike. Final runway 24. Contact traffic 1 ahead.
Delta Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot, welcome to Shannon. Please expedite vacating the runway at Alpha.
Delta Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot on my way to Alpha.
Memorial 6-4 Mike, just reconfirming you're clear to land runway 24.
Clear to land runway 24. Spitfire. Oh, correction. Memorial 6-4 Mike.
So they're throwing curveballs at Gibbo, but he's smashing them out of the park. And like, again, lads, this isn't a game to try and catch us out. Like, we're not controllers, right? But what we're trying to do here is give you guys a feel, or give you that sense of, well, the workload of a controller can get very, very busy. And it's no different in VATSIM.
Delta Echo Golf Romeo Foxtrot, contact Shannon Grant on 121.8. Bye-bye.
He's doing really well, right? You'll hear it on VATSIM as you hear it in the real world. When a controller gets busy, and you can all hear really how busy Gibbo was back there. Could you imagine now if I jump onto the control, Shannon Tower, request QDF for the... Jesus. So that's where you need to kind of just apply a bit of common sense. If a controller is busy, give it a couple of minutes. Let it all calm down. If this airport had a whole line of, airliners approaching, 7-3s, 7-4s, if there was a whole load of airliners coming in and you're VFR and you can see how busy the airport is, you could divert, or you could fly somewhere else, or you could call up the tower and say, cancel my landing intention for now. I wish to travel somewhere else. And just go off, get out of his way. I'm going to go VFR. I want to check out the Cliffs of Moher. Controllers will help, or thank you for that. They will absolutely thank you for that. If they're very, very busy and you have the option and you have the fuel and the time, hey, I'll get out of your way, man. I mean, it's cool. They will thank you for that. So always try and predict what's going on at the local airfield. You'll always be able to do it by checking out VAT Spy or one of those, right? You'll see what the traffic is like. At the events, there's a lot more coordination. You'll have, control, approach, you'll have tower, ground, you'll have all of these different frequencies, and they're all rack 'em and stack 'em the whole way down. Single operator, a single controller. And again, VATSIM does this top-down system, right? It can get very, very busy. Points for pilots, just like what we heard one of the lads. If you're approaching the runway, just like Maddie was approaching the runway and he was saying, hey, I can see traffic on the runway, I'm 9 miles out. He doesn't need to tell the controller that. That's up to Maddie. Slow down. And if you can't slow down, go around. You don't need to tell the tower. The tower knows this, right? If the tower had radar, we would have way more control because we can space it out a little bit different. In this circumstances, on this platform, we don't have radar. You do on VATSIM, of course you do. But for us here training, we don't have radar. So, we have a massive disadvantage there. So it's up to the pilots. But hey, there's a plane on the runway. What do I do? What do you think you do? Go around. Get out of there. It's not safe. Enter the traffic pattern with the circle around, tell the tower what you're doing, and then the tower will shout you back. That's all. So don't ever think you have to ask or you need permission to do a go around. If the runway is not clear and you have been cleared to land, don't take the chance. Mistakes can happen. It could be the controller, it could be the other aircraft. Some poor unfortunate idiot has just connected to the network parked on the runway. It happens, lads, all the time. It's your job as the pilot. Get yourself out of harm's way. And all you have to say is very calm and very relaxed. You don't give out to anyone. Shannon Tower, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, going around. Okay, something's wrong. The controller doesn't need to know that there's someone on the runway. If you have an emergency on board, yeah, you can tell them, yeah, my landing gear didn't come down. I'm declaring an emergency. Is it a pan, or is it mayday, mayday, mayday? That's a lesson for another day. But do you know what I mean? It's all this sort of stuff, right? Don't be like that in student pilot who literally went around a jet rather than doing a go around. Yeah, like physically go around, enter the traffic circuit. We've looked at the traffic circuits. We've looked at missed approaches, right? So if you're flying IFR or you're in an airliner or whatever, but there is a missed approach you can do. It's stated on the actual chart. If you're approaching an airport and there's heavy traffic there, give yourself the spacing. Think about it. If you're flying along and you could say, hey, there's a plane just there ahead of me, and hey, there's a plane just there behind me. But what do you think? What do you think is going to happen when the controller has to deal with all three of you approaching at the same time? Make life easier. Slow down a bit. Right? Fly around a little bit. Don't be worried. Enter a hold somewhere. If you're inside the airspace of Shannon, just tell them what you're doing or ask them, hey, the controller might say, if you want to land, inbound for a full stop landing 2-4, the instruction could be, I want you to enter the circuit on the downwind. Well, that's very different. How am I going to do that? Or he might say, landing denied. You expect 3 circuits, or landing denied or denied. I want you to enter a hold at a published holding point, for which around Shannon we have a couple of different holding points, right? So you have Coney Island. You guys have heard of Coney Island before, right? So Coney Island, right? There's one of them. Or you have Bunratty Castle. These are holding points. If ATC is that busy, they're going to say, hey, proceed to Coney Island and enter the hold. I'll call you back. These are things that could happen. If you don't want to deal with that sort of stuff, well, then take your time. Make sure there's plenty of space. You maintain spatial separation and all this sort of jazz. That's up to you, right? This is when it comes to you being on VATSIM all the time. And you're going to have additional tools with you. You're going to see on a map other aircraft on VATSIM. You will see it on the ADSB, on your avionics, inside the aircraft, on the little traffic page. You'll see where the aircraft are. Don't fly into a very hot zone without thinking there could be consequences to this. Because the controller could be busy. People could make a mistake. You could be told to enter a hold, right? You could be told... You could be told anything, really. You could get down and then you're laughing. Or you could be approaching the airport, clear to land, and then suddenly you see someone on the runway and then you're thinking, balls, what do I do? You don't ask. You immediately react, going around. And you just shout to the tower, Shannon Tower, Echo India, Tango Tango Mike, going around. Okay. And then they're thinking, Jesus, what happened there? Okay, well, report downwind, will you? And then the whole thing keeps moving. Now, tonight, we threw Gibbo into the deep end, but I think he did a stellar job. But just to be aware of what we're doing now, we are going to repeat all of this next week. So you guys doing what you're doing, well, we get to do it again, right? We get to do it again because the whole point of this, well, we have to learn it. This flight is very much, it's almost identical to what we'd be doing for our VATSIM event. Very similar, right? The only difference is we might have Shannon control on board. We might have an approach frequency. Then we'll have a tower frequency. We'll have to wait and see. There could be ATC at other airports that we're departing from. We might remain under ATC the entire way. We don't know yet. But the idea of flying from a point into Shannon, well, we now know what it looks like arriving on runway 24. We've already done 06. We'll practice 24 again. And I think next week we might throw in 1 or 2 controlled curveballs. I'm happy to staff up the tower. Gibbo's already done it. Great job. Epic's been on the ground for us there as well. And one thing I will say, if you ever get the chance, if you want to jump onto our Discord during the week, put out a little message and say, hey, does anyone want to practice circuits, right? At Shannon. Just put it out in Discord. Anyone want to practice circuits? Anyone here in the chat, anyone can be a controller. Because if you just follow the steps that we're doing, this entire manual tells you exactly what to do, look. There's a script. So if there's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of you flying, it's a lot easier to do, right? You just write down the call signs, write down the active runway, whatever it is, if you're using live weather and live time. But this is what you say. You can follow the script from start to finish, and it works. It absolutely works. All right. So if we have a look at the review from this flight, I think I have Gibbo here. We'll talk to Gibbo there now. You there, Gibbo? May not be.
What's going on, dude?
There you are. Jesus. It sounded busy. How'd you get on?
Yeah, great. I mean, so kudos to Iceman, Toto, Maddie, Martel, Mallethead, I don't know who that is, and Sir Fuzz and Epic, of course, for jumping in and flying. It was interesting, though. So Matty and Iceman did go rounds by themselves. Fair play. It was getting a bit hectic, and of course you can't see, as you just said, the distance between folks. So it got to one point where there was a couple of folks clear to land, but needing some expediting on the ground to get them off the runway. So they made the call, and the right call to go around. But it was just because we couldn't see the distance between the separation between the aircraft.
Yeah, like I think kind of a happy accident, but I think what we found out tonight, it gives a great insight into some of the workload that a controller has, right? I mean, there's a lot happening. Okay, radar helps them, of course it does, but like you can see just how busy ATC can get, and that explains why they speak faster. That's probably why they don't entertain any sort of, how do you turn on the pitot? Do you know what I mean? Like there could be an element of that as well.
Yeah, even speed, so seeing how fast an aircraft is traveling at would really help you knowing if you've got more time or not.
Yeah.
Sounds obvious, but of course, just looking at it from, I think there was a question in the chat, am I just looking at it from the sim? And I am, because we've no radar. So knowing how fast an aircraft is traveling is guesswork based on the model.
Yeah, and like you'll often hear it at other airports. Well, they'll tell them speed restriction or, can you slow it down? Or in some cases, can you speed up? I mean, that happens in IFR for airliners the whole time. Speed not above 200 knots, or can you maintain 250 on approach? And that's where you'll hear the unable or not able. You know what I mean? That's where that kind of jargon comes in.
Yeah,
but,
speed at your discretion, my favorite words.
Yeah, your discretion, or altitude, your discretion is like, yes, right? But dude, you did absolutely brilliant. You were thwarted into the deep end, but you nailed it. Brilliant, absolutely excellent.
It was fun, and kudos to Epic as well, who jumped on ground to help out too. So thanks a mil.
That was awesome, dude. It was awesome. Fair play to you. Right, pints of Guinness into the chat there for Gibbo. Isn't he only deadly? He's deadly. Fantastic stuff. So anyone who's new here, if all of this seems a little bit too advanced or a little bit, well, don't let that worry you at all, because the document is there. We're going to spend a bit of time revising every single lesson to date, everything we've read through to date. We're going to revise the whole lot before we actually do this VATSIM event. And remember, even the VATSIM controllers, well, we know some of them already. Joshy was there, and of course, Adam Guido. And you're in Ireland, it's VAT Air. We're grand, right? It's an Irish thing. We're very calm and cool and whatever, There's Epic flying ahead of us. So this document, as I say, it's available on our Discord, and it's very specific to European flying. In particular, it's for Ireland, right? Because there's always a couple of differences. However, we will be focusing on some of the differences between this and the US flying soon, right? So those of you who like flying in the United States, which I love flying in the United States, we're going to be doing that soon as well. So the very last part of our flight was the review, right? So if we have a look at our review, well, this is what it looks like. So let's have a look. We departed Birr. We left on the crosswind leg. We flew up to Portumna. From Portumna, we called up Shannon and we said, hey, are a chance we can enter the owl control zone. They cleared us to the control zone. We then flew visually, not above 2,500 feet, until we reported the runway in sight, which was roughly around here. Once we reported the field in sight, we got a landing clearance for runway 24. We then landed on runway 24. I extended my landing a little bit because I knew we were going to taxi on Alpha. Landing rate was recorded at 25 feet per minute. And then we taxied on Alpha. And Epic Fool, the ground controller, told us, hey, report to me when you actually get to your stand or to your parking zone. Hey, Sky Command is here. You've always been this wildly masculine, or did you just wake up one day? You absolute legend. Sky Command, I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. Do you know? Welcome in. And Muse fan, thank you very much indeed for gifting the tier 1 sub to Sky Command. Welcome in, my dude. Hope all is well. And Muse, very kind of you. So Epic had to tell us, hey, give me a shout once you get parked up, because, well, he had a lot of traffic to deal with. So he needed to make sure, okay, yeah, Tango Mike is now parked up and shut down. Get him off my screen. And these are the limitations that we have without having radar, right? But when we fly on VATSIM, the controllers will have radar. And when we go to do this event, we'll still staff up the Discord channels for our Xbox pilots, right? For our Xbox pilots. Anyone else really wants us to do the VATSIM flying. We'll rehearse it a couple of times. Don't worry. I'll make myself available on the Discord. One-to-one coaching if you want. No problem, right? No problem at all. So we'll do all of this. Thank you very, very much. Lads, awesome stuff tonight. The voice procedure, it's getting better and better and better. And for those of you who haven't done any of this yet, don't worry. You're not at the stage where we can't pick you up and bring you along with us. We're going to focus on revision for the next couple of weeks as we edge toward our new event, our first, the inaugural FireFly event on ATC. So Ian Fisher is here as well. Ian, good luck with your flight tomorrow, my dude. And you're going to be flying the Lancaster on P3D, I think. It looks total fun. So do stand by. Look at that for timing. We're now going to set up a raid, and I'll see you on Wednesday. I think Ali might be flying tomorrow. Oh, no, she's not. She's not around tomorrow. She's on Hollier, or she's away, I think. Anyway, keep your eye on Discord for any updates, and sure, you wouldn't know the crack at me. We could jump into something very, very soon. So thank you all so very, very much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Take care.